You've probably heard of Gatsby's mansion, the parties, the jazz, the champagne. But here's what you never see. The 126 servants who made it all possible, who woke before dawn, who moved through secret tunnels to stay invisible. Here's what life was really like inside Long Island's Gold Coast mansions. And hey, if you're settling in for the night, maybe pull that blanket up a little closer. If these stories help you drift off, consider subscribing. I'd love to know where you're listening from and what time it is there. Drop it in the comments. Now let's travel back to 1922. Right now, you're warm, safe. Your pillow knows the shape of your head. Your blanket's doing its job. But close your eyes and let me take you somewhere else. Somewhere you'd never survive. Somewhere beautiful and brutal in equal measure. The year is 1922. You're standing on a dirt road in Cold Spring Harbor, Long Island. You're 21 years old. Your name is Mary Catherine Brennan. And 3 weeks ago, you were in County Cork, Ireland, watching your mother cry at the docks as you boarded a ship that smelled like rust and regret. Your hands are raw, still cracked from scrubbing your way across the Atlantic in steerage, where you'd traded labour for passage. 6 weeks of mopping vomit from wooden planks while the ship pitched and rolled through storms that seemed personal. 6 weeks of sleeping in a bunk barely wider than your shoulders, pressed between two other girls who cried in their sleep. But you made it. You actually made it. And now you're here, standing on Long Island soil with everything you own in a single carpet bag, a wool dress, a cotton nightgown, your grandmother's rosary, a photograph of your family that's already starting to fade at the edges, and a letter crumpled from being read so many times the paper's soft as cloth, from your cousin Bridget who came over 3 years ago. "Come to Long Island," she'd written in her looping hand. "The houses here make our whole village look like a chicken coop. They pay $20 a month, Mary. $20, and they feed you. You sleep in a real bed. You'll never be hungry again. $20 a month. Back home, that was more money than you'd see in a year. More than your father made breaking his back in the fields. More than your mother earned taking in laundry until her hands bled. So you came. The road beneath your feet is thick with summer dust. Your boots, the only pair you own, are already coated with it. The afternoon sun is brutal, nothing like the soft grey light of Ireland, and sweat is trickling down your spine, soaking through your one good dress. You've been walking for nearly 2 hours. The man at the train station had pointed vaguely west when you'd asked about the Harrington estate. "Can't miss it," he'd said, looking at your carpet bag, your accent, your obvious foreignness. "It's the castle on the hill." Castle? You'd almost laughed. You'd seen castles in Ireland, crumbling ruins covered in ivy, home to nothing but crows and ghosts. Surely he was exaggerating, but then the trees part, and your feet stop moving, and your breath catches somewhere in the middle of your chest like it's forgotten how to escape. Holy Mother of God! It rises from the landscape like something from a fever dream. Not a house, not even a mansion, a palace. A French chateau transplanted whole from some European fairy tale and dropped onto Long Island as if by magic. Cream-coloured limestone gleams in the afternoon sun, so bright it hurts your eyes. Towers reach toward the sky. Windows, hundreds of them, catch the light and throw it back like scattered diamonds. The roofline is a fantasy of peaks and dormers and chimneys, stretching on until you lose count. You've never seen anything like it. You've never even imagined anything like it. In County Cork, the grandest building you'd ever entered was the church. Stone walls, wooden pews, a single stained glass window that turned the light pink and gold on Sunday mornings. That church had seemed enormous to you then, a monument to something greater than yourself. This house could swallow that church whole. could swallow your entire village whole and still have room for Sunday dinner. The grounds sprawl in every direction. Formal gardens stretch before the main entrance. Geometric patterns of clipped hedges and gravel paths surrounding fountains that catch the sunlight. Beyond them, you can see rolling lawns, green as anything in Ireland, dotted with marble statues. A lake glimmers in the distance. And is that a golf course? A golf course, just for one family. One family needs a golf course. Back home, they'd think you'd lost your mind if you described this. Mary, are you feeling well? Did you hit your head on the boat? Your legs are trembling as you approach the gate. Wrought iron, twice your height, worked into elaborate scrolls and flourishes. A guardhouse sits to one side, and a man in uniform steps out as you approach. "Deliveries around back," he says, not unkindly. "I'm not delivering anything." Your voice comes out steadier than you feel. "I'm here for the housemaid position. I have a letter from my cousin, Bridget Brennan. She works in the kitchen." The guard looks you over, your dusty dress, your worn boots, your carpet bag that's seen better days. His expression doesn't change, but something in his eyes softens just slightly. "New girl then. Follow the drive around to the servants' entrance. East side of the house. Mrs. Whitmore will be expecting you." The servants' entrance. Of course. Girls like you don't walk through the front door. You've been walking for what feels like forever, but the drive alone takes another 10 minutes. 10 minutes of crushed white gravel crunching beneath your feet. 10 minutes of that impossible house growing larger and larger until it fills your entire field of vision. 10 minutes of your heart beating so hard you're certain it's going to bruise your ribs. As you round the east side of the house, the grandeur fades slightly. This is the working part of the estate, you realise. The part they don't want guests to see. The walls are still that beautiful limestone, but the windows are smaller here, set deeper. A row of doors leads to what must be kitchens and storerooms. The smell of baking bread drifts through an open window, and your stomach clenches. You haven't eaten since dawn. "Mary?" You spin around, and there's Bridget, your cousin, standing in a doorway with flour on her apron and joy on her face. She looks different. 3 years in America have filled out her cheeks, smoothed the hungry lines around her eyes. Her hair, once as dull and lank as your own, is shiny and pinned up neatly beneath a white cap. She looks healthy. She looks like someone who eats 3 meals a day. "You made it," she says, and then she's hugging you, and you're both crying, and you don't care that you're covered in road dust or that your dress is soaked through with sweat. "It's so big," you manage to say against her shoulder. "Bridget, it's so big," she laughs, pulling back to look at you. Wait until you see inside. Wait until you see the ballroom, the library, the bathrooms, Mary. They have indoor bathrooms with running water, hot running water, indoor bathrooms. These are things you've heard about but never experienced. Back home, you bathed once a week in a tin tub in front of the fire, heating water bucket by bucket. The luxury Bridget's describing is almost incomprehensible. "Come on," she says, taking your carpet bag with one hand and your elbow with the other. "Mrs. Whitmore wants to see you before dinner. She's the housekeeper, runs everything below stairs. You'll want to stay on her good side." Below stairs. You'll learn that phrase well in the coming months. The invisible world beneath the visible one. The engine that makes the machine run smoothly while remaining entirely hidden from view. Bridget leads you through a maze of corridors. The walls down here are plain white plaster, nothing like the grandeur you glimpsed from outside. The floors are flagstone, cool beneath your feet. Gas lamps flicker at regular intervals, casting pools of yellow light. The smell of bread gives way to soap and steam and something savoury, meat perhaps, or soup. The family's not in residence yet, Bridget explains as you walk. They summer here, June through September, come out from the city when the weather turns warm. But there's a house party coming next week, so we're running around like chickens with our heads cut off getting ready. How many are we, you ask? Servants, I mean, Bridget thinks for a moment. Indoor staff? Maybe 35, 40 when the family's here. Then there's the gardeners, the stablemen, the chauffeurs. The golf course has its own staff. Must be over 100 all told, I'd reckon. Over 100 servants, to care for how many family members? The Harringtons are just 4, Bridget says, reading your thoughts. Mr. Harrington, Mrs. Harrington, and their 2 daughters. The older one, Miss Eleanor, she's 20, about your age, and Miss Caroline is just 16. 4 people, over 100 servants. The math doesn't make sense to you. Can't possibly make sense. What do 4 people even do with 100 servants? Does each daughter have 25 personal footmen? Does Mrs. Harrington have a dedicated pillow fluffer? But before you can ask more questions, Bridget stops in front of a heavy wooden door and knocks twice. Come. The voice from within is clipped. English, or something very like it. Bridget gives your hand a quick squeeze, then pushes open the door. The housekeeper's sitting room is small but comfortable. A fire crackles in the grate despite the summer heat. A desk sits beneath the window, covered in neat stacks of papers, and behind the desk sits Mrs. Whitmore. She's older than you expected. 60 perhaps, with silver hair pulled back so tightly it seems to stretch the skin of her face. Her black dress is severe but immaculate. Her eyes, grey as a winter sky, miss nothing as they travel from your dusty boots to your sweat-dampened hair. Miss Brennan, I presume? Yes, ma'am. You're late. I expected you this morning. Your cheeks burn. The train was delayed, ma'am. I walked from the station as fast as I could. The train is always delayed. You should have accounted for that. She opens a ledger on her desk, runs her finger down a page. Bridget Brennan vouched for you. Said you were a hard worker, quick to learn. I hope she wasn't mistaken. No, ma'am. Can you read? Yes, ma'am. Write? Yes, ma'am. Do you know how to make a bed properly? Build a fire? Clean a grate? Polish silver? Iron linen? Each question is a test. You've done most of these things, but not the way they do them here, you suspect. Not the way a proper housemaid does them in a house like this. I know the basics, ma'am. I'm a quick learner. Mrs. Whitmore's expression doesn't change, but something in her posture relaxes just slightly. We'll see. You'll start as a 3rd housemaid, bottom of the ladder. Your duties will include cleaning the family bedrooms, making beds, emptying chamber pots, carrying water, and assisting the upper housemaids with whatever tasks they assign. You will rise at 5:30 each morning and will not retire until the family has done so, which during house parties may be well past midnight. 5:30 in the morning until past midnight. 18 hours, 19 hours, every day. You will receive $20 per month, payable on the 1st. Room and board are included. You're permitted 1 half-day off per week and 1 full Sunday per month, provided your duties are complete. You will wear the uniform provided. You will keep yourself clean and neat at all times. You will speak only when spoken to by members of the family. You will use the servants' stairs and the servants' entrance. Under no circumstances will you use the main staircase or the front door. Do I make myself clear? Yes, ma'am. If you're caught stealing, you will be dismissed without reference. I would never, ma'am. If you're caught in an inappropriate relationship with any male staff member, you will be dismissed without reference. Your cheeks flame, but you hold her gaze. Yes, ma'am. If you break anything of value, the cost will be deducted from your wages. Yes, ma'am. Good. Mrs. Whitmore closes the ledger. Bridget will show you to your room and provide your uniform. Report to the kitchen at 5:30 tomorrow morning. The upper housemaid will assign your duties, that is all. You're dismissed, just like that. Bridget takes your elbow again and guides you out of the room, back into the maze of servants' corridors. You did well, she whispers once you're out of earshot. She likes you. She didn't seem to like me at all, Bridget laughs quietly. That's her liking you. You should see her when she doesn't. The servants' quarters are on the top floor of the house. Top floor, in a house this size, means climbing what feels like 100 stairs, each step echoing in the narrow stairwell. By the time you reach the landing, your legs are burning. Men's quarters are on the other side of the house, Bridget explains, strictly separate. If you're caught on their side after dark, Mrs. Whitmore will have your head. The women's corridor is long and narrow, lined with identical doors. Small windows at each end let in thin slices of late afternoon light. The walls are whitewashed, the floors bare wood. It's clean but sparse, institutional, nothing like the grandeur below. Bridget stops at the third door from the end. Home sweet home. You'll be sharing with Annie and Ruth. Annie's a second housemaid, been here 2 years. Ruth's a parlour maid, been here 6 months. They're good girls. They'll help you along. The room is small. 3 narrow beds arranged against the walls, leaving just enough space in the middle to stand. 3 small wardrobes. 1 window that looks out over the back gardens. A washstand with a chipped basin and a cracked mirror. But there's a bed. A real bed with an actual mattress and clean sheets and a pillow that's not made of straw. After 6 weeks in steerage, after 21 years of sleeping 3 to a bed with your sisters, this simple room looks like paradise. The bathroom's at the end of the hall, Bridget says. Indoor plumbing, just like I told you. Hot water comes up in the mornings and evenings, but you'll want to be quick. 30 girls share 2 bathrooms. She sets your carpet bag on the empty bed, the one nearest the window. I've got to get back to the kitchen. Dinner's in an hour, servants' hall. I'll come get you when it's time. Then she's gone, and you're alone. You sit on the bed, your bed. The mattress gives slightly beneath your weight, and you could cry at the simple comfort of it. Back home, you slept on a rope frame with a sack of straw that poked through the fabric and left scratches on your skin. Through the window you can see the gardens below. Even from up here, even at this angle, they're breathtaking. Roses and lilies and flowers you don't have names for, arranged in patterns too perfect to be natural. Gardeners move among the beds, clipping and pruning, keeping everything just so. Beyond the gardens, the lawn slopes down toward the water. Long Island Sound, you think, remembering your geography. The water catches the late afternoon sun and scatters it into a million golden fragments. A sailboat glides across the surface, so white against the blue it looks like something from a painting. This is where you live now, this impossible place where 4 people need 100 servants to survive, where the gardens are more manicured than any churchyard you've ever seen, where there's hot water and indoor plumbing and more food than you could eat in a lifetime. You think about your mother's face at the docks, the way she'd pressed a small wooden cross into your palm and whispered, "Write to us, Mary Catherine. Tell us everything." What can you possibly write? How can you describe this place to people who've never seen anything grander than a country manor house? How can you explain that you live in a palace now, even if you live in the smallest room in the smallest corner of it? You lie back on the bed, just for a moment, just to rest your eyes. The mattress cradles you. The pillow sighs beneath your head. Outside you can hear birds singing in the gardens and the distant splash of a fountain, and somewhere, far off, the sound of a motor car on gravel. Tomorrow your new life begins. Tomorrow you'll wake at 5:30 and learn what it means to be invisible, to be part of the machinery that makes this impossible world run. But right now, for just this moment, you can close your eyes, you can breathe, You can feel, for the first time in months, something that might be hope. The train station seems a lifetime ago already. The ship, the hunger, the fear. County Cork, with its grey skies and empty cupboards, and your mother's tired face. All of it receding like a shoreline seen from a departing boat. You're in America now, in the land of opportunity, in a castle on a hill where the flowers bloom in patterns and the bathrooms have hot running water, and a girl like you can earn $20 whole a month just for making beds and carrying water. Is this what your grandmother prayed for all those years ago when she'd light candles in the church and whisper wishes for her grandchildren? Is this the American dream everyone talked about back home? You don't know yet. Can't know yet. But as you lie there on your new bed in your new room in this new world, listening to the birds and the fountains and the distant hum of a house coming to life, you let yourself believe that maybe, just maybe, everything is going to be all right. The summer light is fading now. Long shadows stretch across the gardens, turning gold to amber to rose. The sounds of the house are changing too. Footsteps in the corridor, voices from the kitchen, the clatter of pots and pans as dinner approaches. Soon Bridget will come to fetch you. Soon you'll sit down in the servants' hall and eat your first meal as a member of this household. Soon you'll meet Annie and Ruth, your new roommates, and the cook and the butler and all the others who keep this impossible place running. But for now, for just these few more minutes, you can rest. The ceiling above you is plain white plaster, but through the window you can see the first stars beginning to appear. The same stars that shine over County Cork, over your mother's cottage, over the grave where your grandmother lies. You're so far from home, farther than you ever thought you'd be, but you made it. Against all odds, against every obstacle, you made it. And tomorrow, your real journey begins. Your eyes grow heavy. Your breathing slows. The sounds of the house fade into a gentle murmur, like waves on a distant shore. In the servants' quarters of one of the grandest houses in America, a girl from County Cork falls asleep. She doesn't know yet what's coming. The parties and the secrets, the romances and the heartbreaks, the crash that will bring it all tumbling down, the history she's about to live through. But you know, and you'll be there with her every step of the way. Welcome to Long Island's Gold Coast. Welcome to the world of the robber barons and their castles in the sky. Welcome to the invisible army that made the glamour possible. Welcome home. Someone is shaking your shoulder. Mary, Mary, wake up. Your eyes open to darkness. For a terrible moment, you think you're back on the ship, back in steerage, back in that narrow bunk with the whole world pitching and rolling beneath you. But no, the bed isn't moving. The air doesn't smell like vomit and seawater, and the voice whispering your name has an American accent, not Irish. First bell rang 5 minutes ago. You need to get up. Now. You sit up so fast your head spins. The room is pitch black except for a single candle guttering on the washstand. 2 figures move in the darkness. Your roommates, Annie and Ruth. You'd met them briefly last night, too exhausted to remember much beyond their names and the way they'd laughed at your accent. What time is it? 5:30. You've got 15 minutes to wash and dress before Mrs. Whitmore does inspection. 15 minutes. You slept through the first bell on your very first morning. Your feet hit the cold floor and you're moving before your brain catches up. The washstand, the basin. The water is ice cold and you gasp as you splash it on your face, but there's no time to heat it, no time for anything. Annie is already dressed, buttoning her uniform with practice fingers. She's small and dark-haired, with a sharp face and quick eyes. Your uniform's in the wardrobe. Black dress, white apron, white cap. Make sure your hair's pinned up proper. Mrs. Whitmore checks. The uniform feels strange against your skin. Stiff cotton, starched so heavily it crackles when you move. The apron ties in the back, and your fingers fumble with the strings until Ruth takes pity on you and does it herself. You'll get faster, she says. Ruth is tall and blonde, with a soft voice and gentle hands. Took me a week before I could dress in under 10 minutes. You don't have a week. You have 3 minutes. Your hair is a disaster. 2 days of travel and 1 night's sleep have turned it into a tangled nest, and there's no time to brush it properly. You do your best, twisting it up and jamming pins in until it stays, then cramming the white cap over the whole mess. Good enough, Annie says, giving you a once-over. Come on, inspections in the servants' hall. The servants' hall is in the basement. A long, narrow room with whitewashed walls and a wooden table that could seat 40. Gas lamps flicker along the walls, casting everyone's face in yellow shadow. The staff is assembled in 2 lines, women on one side, men on the other, standing at attention like soldiers awaiting inspection. Because that's exactly what this is. Mrs. Whitmore walks slowly down the line. She stops at each servant, checking their uniform, their hair, their hands. A girl near the end of the row gets sent back upstairs. Fingernails not clean enough. A footman's collar isn't straight. He fixes it under her withering gaze. When she reaches you, her grey eyes travel from your cap to your boots. You hold your breath. Adequate, she says finally, for a first morning. That's apparently the highest praise you're going to get. Brennan, you'll be assigned to the 3rd floor today. Family bedrooms. You'll work under Sarah, the second housemaid. Do exactly as she says. Touch nothing unless instructed. Break nothing. Is that clear? Yes, ma'am. Good. Dismissed. The staff disperses like smoke, everyone moving with purpose toward their assigned tasks. Sarah finds you in the chaos. She's maybe 25, with freckles across her nose and a no-nonsense expression. Ever made a proper bed? I've made beds, yes. Not a proper bed, you haven't. Not a bed with 3 mattresses that all need turning. Not a bed with sheets that cost more than your yearly wage. Come on, I'll show you. You follow her through corridors you don't recognise, up a narrow staircase hidden behind a door that blends so perfectly into the wall you'd never know it was there. Servant stairs, Sarah explains. We've got our own network. Runs through the whole house. Narrow, dark, steep as anything. But it means we can get from the kitchens to the bedrooms without ever crossing the main halls. The staircase is exactly as she described. Narrow enough that your elbows brush the walls on either side. Dark enough that you have to feel your way by memory. The steps are worn smooth from decades of servant feet, dipping in the middle where thousands of trips have eroded the wood. The family doesn't like to see us, Sarah continues, her voice echoing oddly in the enclosed space. That's the rule. We're supposed to be invisible, like the house runs itself by magic, so we use these stairs, these corridors. We stay out of sight. You emerge on the 3rd floor into a narrow hallway that runs behind the main bedrooms. Doors line one side, each one opening into a different chamber. The doors on the other side lead to dressing rooms, bathrooms, sitting areas, a whole hidden layer of the house. Coal first, Sarah says, grabbing 2 empty scuttles from a closet. Fires need to be lit before the family wakes. They sleep late, 8, 9 o'clock sometimes, later if there's been a party, but they want warm rooms when they open their eyes. The coal cellar is in the basement, of course. Down 4 flights of servant stairs. Fill the scuttles until your arms ache, then back up 4 flights while the metal handles cut into your palms. By the time you reach the 3rd floor again, you're sweating through your starched uniform. Sarah doesn't seem winded at all. She's done this so many times her body doesn't even notice anymore. Watch carefully, she says, kneeling before the fireplace in the 1st bedroom. Grate needs to be cleaned first. All the ash from yesterday. Then you lay the fire. Paper at the bottom, then kindling, then coal. Light it gentle. Let it catch before you add more coal. Too much too fast and it'll smother. Her hands move with practiced efficiency. Ash into the bucket. Paper crumpled just so. Kindling arranged in a neat pattern. A match struck and held to the paper until flames lick upward. Now you try. Next room. The next room is larger. The fireplace is set with marble veined with gold. The mantelpiece holds a clock that looks older than your grandmother. You kneel on a hearth that probably cost more than your entire village and try to remember Sarah's instructions. Ash out, paper down, kindling, coal. Your first attempt smothers. Your second attempt catches but burns too fast. Your third attempt finally produces something like a proper fire. You'll get faster, Sarah says. The same words Ruth used earlier. We've got 6 more rooms to do before 7. 6 more rooms. 6 more fireplaces. 6 more climbs up and down the servants' stairs with heavy coal scuttles. But you're not finished with this room yet. The fire is just the beginning. Chamber pot, Sarah says, nodding toward a decorative screen in the corner. Empty it in the slop closet at the end of the hall. Rinse it. Bring it back. Behind the screen sits a porcelain pot, painted with delicate flowers. It's the fanciest chamber pot you've ever seen, and it needs emptying. Rich people, you think. Even their poop is fancy. The slop closet has a drain in the floor and a tap that produces water cold enough to make your teeth ache. You rinse the pot, dry it with a cloth, carry it back to its place behind the screen. Water pitcher, Sarah says. Fill it fresh every morning. Wash basin too, and check the soap dish. If it's nearly empty, replace it. The water has to be carried up from the kitchens. Hot water in the morning for washing. There's a complicated system of pipes somewhere in the house, but it doesn't reach the upper floors properly, so servants still haul brass cans up 4 flights of stairs. 2 trips for hot water, 1 trip for cold. The cans weigh more with every flight. By the time you've done all 6 bedrooms, your arms are shaking and your uniform is soaked through at the armpits. You've emptied chamber pots and filled water pitchers and laid fires, and you haven't even started on the actual cleaning yet. Sarah checks her watch. 7:15. Family won't be up for another hour at least. That gives us time for the real work. The real work, as opposed to what you've been doing. Beds first. They need turning. The beds in these rooms are unlike anything you've ever seen. 4 posters draped in silk, mattresses stacked 3 high, pillows piled like clouds. The sheets are Egyptian cotton, Sarah tells you. The blankets are cashmere. The bedspreads are embroidered by hand. Bottom mattress turns once a week. Middle mattress turns every day. Top mattress gets fluffed until it's soft as air. Watch. She strips the bed with surgical precision. Sheets folded and set aside. Each mattress turned in sequence. A whole body effort that leaves you breathless just watching. Then the sheets go back on, tucked so tight you could bounce a coin off them. Hospital corners. Perfect alignment. Not a single wrinkle. Your turn. The next bed takes you 20 minutes. Sarah does hers in 5. You'll get faster, she says again. You're starting to hate that phrase. After the beds come the surfaces. Every table, every dresser, every nightstand needs dusting. The furniture polish smells like lemons and something chemical. You work it into the wood with a soft cloth, buffing until you can see your own reflection. Careful with the ornaments, Sarah warns. That vase is Ming Dynasty, probably worth more than we'll both earn in a lifetime. You hadn't even noticed the vase. It sits on a corner table, blue and white porcelain, so delicate it looks like it might shatter if you breathe on it. You dust around it without touching, terrified of even coming close. The morning stretches on. Dusting becomes sweeping, becomes mopping. Curtains need straightening, windows need checking for smudges, mirrors need polishing until they gleam, and through all of it, you must remain invisible. Footsteps, Sarah hisses suddenly, grabbing your arm. Main corridor, come on. You duck through a door you hadn't noticed into a narrow passage that runs between the walls. Sarah presses a finger to her lips. Through the thin plaster you can hear footsteps passing. A voice, female, young, complaining about something. Miss Caroline, Sarah whispers, the younger daughter. She's up early. You wait in the darkness until the footsteps fade. Then you emerge, ghost-like, into the bedroom you'd just finished cleaning and continue as if nothing happened. She didn't know we were there, Sarah says. That's the whole point. She never knows we're here. None of them do. They wake up to warm rooms and clean sheets and fresh water, and they never think about who made it happen. You think about your mother, rising before dawn to light the fire, to fetch water from the well, to start the porridge. All the invisible labour that kept your family alive. It's not so different, really. Except the scale. Except the wealth. Except the 100 servants instead of one tired woman. Breakfast, Sarah says finally, checking her watch again. Servants' hall, 20 minutes. Then we start on the main floor. Breakfast is porridge and toast and tea. Real tea, not the weak stuff you had back home. And bacon and eggs. You eat like you haven't eaten in weeks, which is nearly true. The servants' hall is full now. Kitchen maids and scullery maids and laundresses and footmen and gardeners, all eating at the long table in strict hierarchical order. Upper servants at one end nearest the fire, lower servants at the other, nearest the draughts. You're at the very bottom. Squeezed between two other third housemaids who don't bother introducing themselves. But the food is good. The food is plentiful. And for the first time since you left Ireland, you feel genuinely full. After breakfast, Sarah leads you downstairs to the main floor, and for the first time you see the house as the family sees it. Holy Mother of God! The entrance hall alone could swallow your entire childhood home. A grand staircase sweeps upward, carved from white marble, gleaming under crystal chandeliers. The floors are polished wood, dark and lustrous. Paintings line the walls, landscapes, portraits. A woman in pearls who looks down at you with something like amusement. Carrere and Hastings, Sarah says, noticing your expression. They designed this house, same firm that did the New York Public Library. You don't know what that means, but you nod anyway. The drawing room takes your breath away. Gold leaf on the ceiling, silk on the walls, furniture that looks too beautiful to sit on, a fireplace you could stand upright in, carved with scenes from Greek mythology. Don't touch the artwork, Sarah says. Ever. The paintings alone are worth more than this house. More than this house, which cost $11 million to build. You can't comprehend numbers like that. Can't wrap your mind around a world where paintings cost more than palaces. The library is next. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, filled with leather-bound volumes that nobody ever reads. A rolling ladder for reaching the upper shelves. A desk the size of a dining table. And there, behind one of the bookshelves, a door you wouldn't see unless you knew to look. Secret passage, Sarah says, pushing it open, leads to the servants' quarters. There's a whole network of them, tunnels and corridors and hidden staircases, so we can move through the house without being seen. You step through into darkness. The passage is narrow, barely wide enough for one person. Gas lamps flicker at intervals, casting pools of yellow light. The family doesn't know about all of them, Sarah continues. Some of these passages are older than the house itself, built into the original structure. We've mapped them out over the years, passed the knowledge down. It's our house too, in a way. We just see different parts of it. Different parts, the hidden parts. The arteries beneath the skin that keep the body alive. Come on, Sarah says. We've got the ballroom to do before lunch. The ballroom. You'd heard whispers about it last night from the other maids. A room big enough to hold 500 guests. A floor designed specifically for dancing. Chandeliers that take 3 servants an entire day to clean. You emerge from the passage into a room that stops you dead. It's enormous. The ceiling soars 3 stories overhead, painted with clouds and angels and scenes from some paradise you've never imagined. Crystal chandeliers hang like frozen waterfalls, catching the morning light and scattering it into rainbows across the walls. The floor is polished parquet, arranged in geometric patterns that must have taken years to create. And the windows, floor-to-ceiling glass, overlooking the formal gardens, the fountains, the maze of hedges, the endless green lawn rolling down toward the water. This is where they have their parties, Sarah says. When the family's in residence, there's a party almost every weekend. 300 guests, sometimes more. They dance until dawn, drink champagne like water. The orchestra plays right there in the alcove. You try to imagine it. 300 people in silk and diamonds, twirling across this floor while an orchestra plays and champagne flows. The laughter, the music, the glitter of jewels in candlelight. And somewhere, in the passages and kitchens and hidden spaces, 100 servants working frantically to keep it all running, pouring drinks, clearing plates, unseen, essential, forgotten. It's beautiful, you say, because it is. Despite everything, despite the exhaustion and the aching muscles and the certain knowledge that you'll spend your life cleaning spaces you'll never truly inhabit, it's the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. Sarah nods. It is, but beauty doesn't clean itself. She hands you a mop, and just like that, the magic breaks. You're not a guest at the ball. You're not a princess in a fairy tale. You're a third housemaid from County Cork and you've got a ballroom to clean before lunch. The parquet floor takes 2 hours. On your hands and knees, working the polish into every groove, every join, every inch of wood. By the time you're done, your reflection stares back at you from the surface, distorted and unfamiliar. Who is that girl? The one with the cap and apron, the one with the red hands and aching back. She looks like a stranger. She looks like someone who's already starting to disappear. Lunch is soup and bread in the servants' hall. 30 minutes to eat, and then back to work. The afternoon is more of the same. More cleaning, more polishing, more climbing up and down the servants' stairs until your legs burn. At 6 o'clock, Sarah finally releases you. The family is dressing for dinner. Upper servants only now. Ladies' maids and valets and footmen to serve the meal. Third housemaids are dismissed until tomorrow. You climb the stairs to your room. 4 flights. You've lost count of how many times you've climbed them today. Your body moves on autopilot, muscle memory already forming. Annie and Ruth are already there, changing out of their uniforms. They look as tired as you feel. First day's the worst, Ruth says. It gets easier. Does it? You can't imagine doing this every day. Can't imagine your body ever adjusting to this level of exhaustion. Can't imagine waking tomorrow at 5:30 to do it all over again. But you will, because there's no other choice. Because $20 a month is a fortune. Because somewhere in County Cork your mother is waiting for a letter, waiting to hear that her daughter made it, that she's safe, that she's building a life in America. You lie down on your bed. The mattress that felt like paradise last night now just feels like a surface, any surface, somewhere to rest your shattered body. Through the window, you can see the gardens again, the last light of evening turning everything gold, gardeners moving through the rose beds, even now, even at this hour. The work never stops. In the distance you can hear music, a piano, playing something soft and melancholy. One of the daughters, practicing perhaps. The sound drifts up through the secret passages and hidden corridors, finding its way to the servants' quarters like a ghost. You close your eyes. Tomorrow you'll do it all again, and the day after, and the day after that. But tonight, for just a few hours, you can rest. The piano plays on. The evening deepens, and somewhere in the castle on the hill, 100 servants are putting the house to bed, preparing it for another day of unseen labour. You sleep. 2 weeks pass. Your hands stop bleeding. That sounds dramatic, but it's the truth. Those first days, the lye soap and the scrub brushes and the constant contact with water left your skin raw and cracked. You'd wrap your fingers in rags at night, trying to keep them from splitting further. But calluses form, skin toughens. Your body adapts because it has no other choice. You learn the house, not all at once, not consciously, but piece by piece, like assembling a puzzle in the dark. The servant stairs that creak on the third step, the coal chute that sticks unless you kick it just right, the hot water tap on the second floor that takes exactly 43 seconds to warm up, the window in Miss Caroline's room that won't stay latched unless you wedge a folded paper beneath the lock. You learn the rhythms too, when to stay out of sight, when to move fast, when to slow down and listen for footsteps in the main corridor. Sunday afternoon, your half-day off. You're sitting in the servants' hall with Bridget, writing a letter to your mother while the rain drums against the basement windows. Tell her about the gardens, Bridget suggests. She's knitting something, a sock maybe, her needles clicking in steady rhythm. She'd like that, the roses and all. You've been staring at the blank page for 10 minutes. How do you describe this place to someone who's never seen anything like it? Dear Mother, you write finally, I am well. The house is very grand. The understatement of the century. The gardens here are beautiful. There are roses of every colour, pink and red and yellow and white. A man named Olmsted designed them, they say. His father did Central Park in New York City. You pause. Your mother has never seen New York City, has never seen a park larger than the patch of green behind the church. The comparison means nothing to her, but you continue anyway. The family has not arrived yet. We're preparing for a house party next week. I work hard, but I am eating well. 3 meals a day and sometimes cake on Sundays. Cake. That detail will make her happy. Will make her believe you're thriving here, even if thriving means scrubbing floors until your knees bruise and carrying water until your shoulders ache. How's the food, really? Bridget asks, without looking up from her knitting. Better than anything back home. Wait till the family's here. The cook makes French food then. Sauces you wouldn't believe. Sometimes we get the leftovers. French food. Your mother wouldn't know what that means either. A bell rings somewhere above. 3 short chimes. Bridget frowns. That's Mrs. Whitmore. Something's up. By the time you reach the housekeeper's sitting room, half the female staff is already assembled. Mrs. Whitmore stands behind her desk, her expression even more severe than usual. The family arrives Thursday instead of Saturday. That gives us 4 days instead of 6. I expect the house to be ready. A ripple of tension moves through the group. 4 days. Everything you'd planned to accomplish by Saturday now needs to happen by Thursday. Additionally, Mrs. Whitmore continues, Mr. Harrington is bringing guests. The Carns from Cold Spring Harbour and the Phippseys from Old Westbury. That means preparing the guest wing as well as the family quarters. The Carns, the Phippseys. Names you don't recognise, but from the way the other maids shift and whisper, they're clearly important. After the meeting breaks up, you find Sarah in the linen closet counting sheets. Who are the Carns? Sarah doesn't look up from her counting. Otto Carn, banker, lives about 10 miles from here in a place called Oheka, named it after himself. Built it on top of a hill because he wanted the highest point on Long Island. Is his house bigger than this one? Sarah laughs. Mary, his house is the second biggest private home in America. 127 rooms, 39 fireplaces. They've got 126 servants just to keep it running. 127 rooms. You try to picture it. This house feels infinite already, and there are maybe 60 rooms here. What would you even do with 127? I barely know my way around this place, you say. That house must require a map. They probably have servants whose only job is giving directions to the other servants. You're joking. Sarah's expression suggests she might not be. He built it because the country clubs wouldn't let him in, Sarah continues. He's Jewish, German immigrant, made a fortune on Wall Street, but that didn't matter to the old money families. They blackballed him from every club on Long Island, so he built his own castle and his own golf course and threw parties that made everyone else look shabby. Something twists in your chest, complicated feelings about a man you've never met. On one hand, he's unimaginably wealthy, part of the system that keeps you scrubbing floors for $20 a month. On the other hand, he knows what it's like to be excluded, to be told you don't belong, no matter how hard you work. What about the Phippses? Steel money, old Westbury Gardens. John Phipps married a British woman, promised to build her a house as beautiful as anything in England. They say it looks like something from 300 years ago, Charles II style, whatever that means. Charles II. You don't know who that is either. His wife decorated the whole place with antiques from real English mansions, Sarah continues. Bought them after the war, when the British families were selling everything to pay death taxes, chandeliers, furniture, paintings. There's a portrait there by some famous artist, one of only 5 signed ones in the whole world. You think about the Ming vase on the 3rd floor, the one worth more than your lifetime wages, and that's just one object in one room in one house. How many priceless things are scattered across Long Island right now? How much of the world's beauty is locked up in places ordinary people will never see? Come on, Sarah says, tucking the sheet count into her apron pocket. We've got 4 days to do 6 days' work. The next 4 days blur together. You sleep in snatches. 4 hours here, 3 hours there. The whole house hums with activity. Windows are washed until they disappear. Silver is polished until it glows. Every surface, every corner, every inch of the estate is scrubbed and buffed and perfected. You learn more about the house as you clean it. Each room tells a story. The morning room was decorated by a firm from Paris. The wallpaper alone cost more than most houses. The pattern is hand-painted silk, imported across the Atlantic in specially designed crates to prevent wrinkling. The dining room seats 40. The table is one single piece of mahogany, cut from a tree that was old when Columbus sailed. The chairs were made by craftsmen who spent a year on each one. The chandelier hanging above contains 3,000 crystals, and cleaning it takes 2 servants an entire day. The conservatory is filled with plants from every continent. Orchids from South America, ferns from New Zealand, orange trees from Spain that produce actual fruit in the middle of a Long Island winter. A team of gardeners does nothing but tend to this one room, and the bathrooms, 7 of them on the family floor alone. Porcelain tubs deep enough to submerge yourself completely. Gold fixtures, hot water that flows from the tap without anyone having to carry it. Back home, you bathed once a week in a tin tub in front of the fire. Here, Miss Carolyn takes 3 baths a day during summer. Thursday morning arrives grey and drizzly. The whole staff assembles at the servants' entrance to welcome the family lined up by rank. Butler first, then housekeeper, then upper servants, then lower servants. You're near the back, between 2 kitchen maids who smell like onions. A motorcar appears at the end of the drive. Then another, then 3 more. The first car stops. A footman opens the door, and you see them for the first time. Mr. Harrington is tall and silver-haired, with the kind of posture that suggests he's never bent to pick up anything in his life. His suit probably costs more than you'll earn in a year, maybe 5 years. Mrs. Harrington is elegant in that careful way. Rich women are elegant. Every hair in place, every accessory chosen with precision. She wears pearls that catch even the grey morning light and throw it back in soft gleams, and then the daughters. Miss Eleanor is 20, the same age as you, but she looks nothing like you. Her skin is smooth and pale. Her hands are soft, unmarked by labour. She moves through the world like it was built specifically to accommodate her, because in many ways it was. Miss Caroline is 16, with her mother's colouring and her father's height. She looks bored, already bored, and she's only just arrived. The butler steps forward. Mr. Jennings, a tall man with a face like carved stone who has spoken exactly 3 sentences to you since you arrived. "Welcome home, sir, madam. We trust your journey was pleasant." "Tolerable," Mr. Harrington says. He doesn't look at the servants, doesn't acknowledge the 100 people assembled to greet him. His eyes are on the house, scanning the facade for imperfections. "The Khans arrive tomorrow morning," Mrs. Harrington says to no one in particular. "And the Phippses for dinner. Make sure the menus are finalised." "Already done, madam," Mr. Jennings replies, and then they're gone, sweeping past the assembled staff like water past stones. The daughters trail behind, Miss Eleanor pausing briefly to adjust her glove, Miss Caroline yawning without covering her mouth. None of them look at you. Of course they don't. You're furniture. You're part of the house itself, no more worthy of attention than the door frame or the gravel drive. The staff disperses, back to work, always back to work. By evening the house has transformed. Fires crackle in every room. Fresh flowers arrange themselves on every surface, courtesy of the gardeners who've been cutting and arranging since dawn. The kitchens are in controlled chaos, preparing dinner for 4 plus the staff. You're assigned to turn down the beds. It's an evening duty, something Sarah taught you last week. Enter the bedrooms, close the curtains, light the lamps, pull back the covers at precisely the right angle, place the warming pan between the sheets if the night is cool, leave everything perfect and undisturbed. Miss Eleanor's room first. You move quietly as you've been trained. Curtains closed, lamps lit, covers folded back just so. On her dressing table there's a photograph. A young man in a military uniform, handsome in that rich boy way, smiling at the camera. You wonder who he is. A sweetheart maybe, a brother, someone important enough to warrant a silver frame. You don't linger, don't snoop. That's a fireable offence. Miss Caroline's room next. It smells like perfume, something floral and expensive. Her belongings are scattered everywhere already. Gloves on the chair, a hat on the bed, a novel open and face down on the nightstand. The novel catches your eye. The cover shows a woman in a flowing dress reaching toward a distant figure. Romance, probably. The kind of story where everyone ends up happy. You turn down her bed and leave the room exactly as you found it, minus the disorder. The guest wing is empty tonight, but it needs to be ready for tomorrow. 5 bedrooms, 5 dressing rooms, 5 bathrooms. You light fires in each one, check the water pitchers, dust surfaces that were dusted just hours ago. By the time you finish, it's nearly midnight. Your feet throb, your back aches, your eyes are gritty with exhaustion, but the house is ready. Tomorrow the guests arrive and the real performance begins. You climb the servants' stairs one last time, 4 flights up. The treads are familiar now, worn smooth in the middle where a century of feet have passed. Your body knows each step, each turn, each landing. Annie and Ruth are already asleep when you reach the room. Their breathing is slow and even, the sound of women who've learned to fall unconscious the moment their heads touch the pillow. You change out of your uniform in the dark. Your nightgown is thin cotton, worn soft from washing. You bought it in Ireland 3 years ago, when you still thought you'd marry Michael Sullivan from the next farm over and spend your life in County Cork. Michael Sullivan. You haven't thought about him in weeks. He probably hasn't thought about you at all. Your bed welcomes you like an old friend. The mattress knows your shape now. The pillow has learned the curve of your neck. These small comforts matter more than you'd ever imagined they could. Through the window, you can see lights burning in the main house. The family is still awake, probably in the drawing room, probably drinking something expensive, probably talking about things you'll never understand. What do rich people talk about when no one's listening? Do they worry about money, about the future, about anything at all? You'll never know. You're not meant to know. You're meant to make beds and carry water and disappear. But sometimes, late at night, you wonder, what would it be like to live in the house instead of beneath it? To wear silk instead of cotton? To have someone else light your fires and carry your water and fold back your sheets? Would you be happier? Would you be kinder? Would you even notice the people who made your life possible? You don't know, can't know. It's too far outside your experience to imagine, but you fall asleep thinking about it anyway, dreaming about a life that was never meant to be yours. The rain has stopped, the clouds are breaking up, and somewhere, far below, the kitchen staff is already starting preparations for tomorrow's breakfast. The machine never stops. You sleep while you can. But even in sleep you're learning. Your dreams are full of corridors now, secret passages that twist and turn through impossible spaces, rooms that shift and change when you're not looking, staircases that go up and up forever, your legs burning, your arms heavy with coal scuttles that never empty. You dream about the butler, Mr. Jennings. In your dream, he's explaining the hierarchy of the house, the same way he explained it to you last week in the servants' hall. Everyone has their place, Dream Jennings says, his stone face never moving. The butler and housekeeper sit at the head of the servants' table, upper servants on one side, lower servants on the other. We do not mix, we do not forget our stations. Upper servants. That's the butler, the housekeeper, the cook, the ladies' maids, the valets. They have their own sitting room, their own dining room sometimes. They dress better, eat better, speak better. Some of them have been in service their whole lives, trained from childhood in great houses across England or Germany or France. Lower servants, that's everyone else. Housemaids, kitchen maids, scullery maids, laundresses, hall boys, the people who do the hard physical work while the upper servants supervise. And then there are the outdoor staff, gardeners and stablemen and chauffeurs. They have their own hierarchy, their own rules, their own separate world. In your dream, Mr. Jennings walks you through the servants' quarters, shows you the butler's pantry where the silver is kept in locked cases, shows you the wine cellar where bottles older than your grandmother wait in dusty rows, shows you the gun room, the flower room, the lamp room, the boot room. So many rooms, so many functions. Every aspect of the family's life requires its own dedicated space, its own dedicated servants. The family has 4 members, Dream Jennings says. We have over 100 staff. That is a ratio of 25 servants per family member. Think about that, Miss Brennan. 25 people dedicated to making one person's life comfortable. You think about your mother, one woman, running an entire household, cooking and cleaning and washing and mending and gardening and child raising, all by herself, with maybe a neighbour's help during harvest time. Here, they have a servant just to clean the lamps, another servant just to polish the boots, another servant whose only job is arranging flowers. Is it necessary, you ask in the dream? All of this? Dream Jennings looks at you with something like pity. Necessary? No, nothing about this life is necessary. But that's not the point. The point is the appearance of necessity. The illusion that all this splendour simply happens naturally, that these people deserve the luxury they enjoy. We create that illusion. We make the impossible look effortless. You wake before dawn, the dream still clinging to you like cobwebs. The real Mr. Jennings has never said anything like that to you, has barely said anything to you at all. Upper servants don't fraternise with third housemaids from County Cork. But the dream felt true anyway. You lie there in the darkness, listening to Annie and Ruth breathe, thinking about illusions. Back home, everyone knew how hard your mother worked. Every neighbour, every relative, every person who passed through your village could see the labour written on her body. The stooped shoulders, the rough hands, the lines around her eyes that came too early. Here, the labour is hidden by design. The family wakes to warm rooms and fresh water and perfectly made beds, and they never think about who made it happen. Never think about you, climbing 4 flights of stairs with coal scuttles. Never think about Sarah, polishing floors on her hands and knees. Never think about the kitchen maids, who've been awake since 3 a.m. preparing breakfast. The illusion requires your invisibility, your erasure, your non-existence in their world. And yet, without you, their world would collapse. Without the 100 servants who tend and clean and cook and carry, this castle on the hill would fall apart within days. The fires would go cold, the silver would tarnish, the gardens would run wild, the whole beautiful fantasy would crumble. They need you. They just don't want to know it. The first bell rings, 5:30, another day beginning. You rise, you wash, you dress, you pin up your hair and check your reflection in the cracked mirror. The stranger looking back at you is becoming familiar now. The sharp cheekbones from eating regular meals, the clearer skin from sleeping indoors, the calloused hands that no longer hurt. You're changing. The house is changing you. Is that a good thing? You honestly don't know, but there's no time to wonder. The guests arrive today. The Carns with their castle on a hill. The Phippses with their English antiques. The performance begins. You head for the servants' stairs, joining the stream of women in identical black dresses and white caps. Nobody speaks. Nobody needs to. The routine is so ingrained now it happens without thought. Down 4 flights, across the basement corridor, into the servants' hall for inspection. Mrs. Whitmore's grey eyes sweep the line. Today she's even more exacting than usual. A hair out of place, a button undone, and you'll be sent back upstairs to fix it. Your uniform is perfect. Your cap is straight. Your hands are clean. Adequate, Mrs. Whitmore says when she reaches you. You're starting to take pride in that word. Adequate. From her, it's practically a compliment. The Carns arrive at 10, she announces. The Phippses at 5 for dinner. I expect impeccable service. Any questions? Silence. Good. To your stations. You head for the linen closet to collect fresh towels for the guest bathrooms. The day has begun. The house is waking up. And somewhere out there, motor cars are already travelling the roads of Long Island, bringing more wealth and more guests and more work to the castle on the hill. The machine turns, you turn with it. The Carns arrive in a motorcade. 3 automobiles gleaming black, rolling up the drive at exactly 10 o'clock. You watch from a 3rd-floor window while you're supposed to be dusting, pressing yourself against the glass like a child at a candy shop. Otto Carn steps out of the first car. He's smaller than you expected, shorter than Mr. Harrington, with a neat white moustache and eyes that seem to take in everything at once. He carries himself like a man who's used to being looked at, examined, judged. His wife follows. Addie, someone said her name was, elegant in a grey travelling suit with pearls at her throat and something tired around her eyes. And then 4 children spilling out of the second and third cars, servants rushing to collect luggage, a whole entourage descending on the house like a small, well-dressed army. Brennan, you spin around. Sarah stands in the doorway, arms crossed. Were you dusting or daydreaming? Dusting, Mum. Just finished. Sarah walks to the window, looks down at the arriving guests. Her expression doesn't change, but something flickers behind her eyes. The Khans, she says quietly. You know why they built that castle of theirs? You said the clubs wouldn't let him in. That's right. German. Jewish. Didn't matter that he'd reorganized half the railroads in America. Didn't matter that he was richer than most of the people who blackballed him. He wasn't the right sort, so he bought 400 acres and built his own kingdom. You watch as Mr. Khan shakes hands with Mr. Harrington. The 2 men are smiling, but there's something careful about it, something measured. Do the Harringtons like him? Sarah makes a sound that might be a laugh. They like his parties. They like his connections. They like being seen at his table. But like him, that's a different question. She turns away from the window. Come on. Guest rooms need fresh towels. The Khans brought their own lady's maid and valet, but we still have to provide for the rest of their staff. The rest of their staff. Of course. Rich people don't travel alone. They bring an entourage. Servants to serve the servants who serve them. The next few hours blur into familiar chaos. Fresh linens for the guest wing. Hot water carried up. Fires lit even though it's summer, because Mrs. Khan mentioned she gets cold easily. Every request relayed through a chain of servants until it reaches someone who can actually fulfill it. Around 2 o'clock, you're carrying a stack of towels down the second-floor corridor when you hear voices from the library. You should keep walking. You know you should. Eavesdropping is a fireable offence, but your feet slow anyway. The door is slightly ajar. Through the gap, you can see Mr. Harrington and Mr. Khan standing by the fireplace, brandy glasses in hand. "A magnificent season at the opera," Mr. Khan is saying. His accent is faint but there. German softened by decades in New York. Caruso was in fine form. You should come to the Met more often, Charles. It would do you good. I've never had your ear for music, Otto. Mr. Harrington swirls his brandy. Though I understand your son has quite the talent. Roger. Something lights up in Mr. Khan's face. Pride. Unmistakable. He's formed his own orchestra, can you believe it? Jazz music. Not exactly what I had in mind when I paid for all those piano lessons, but the boy has passion. Jazz. Mr. Harrington says the word like it tastes strange. That's the Negro music, isn't it? That's the American music, Charles. The only truly American music. My son plays it at parties, and even the stodgiest bankers end up doing the Charleston by midnight. A pause, ice clinking in glasses. How is construction on the gardens progressing? Mr. Harrington asks, changing the subject. Olmsted's boys are nearly finished. The formal garden will be ready by August. I'm planning a party to celebrate. 500 guests, orchestra in the main hall, dancing until dawn. You'll come, of course. 500 guests. The ballroom you scrubbed on your hands and knees could hold maybe 300. What kind of ballroom holds 500? Addie still calls it Otto's Zoo, Mr. Khan continues laughing. She thinks I invite too many artists and actors. But what's the point of having a castle if you can't fill it with interesting people? Artists and actors. Mr. Harrington's voice is carefully neutral. Charlie Chaplin, I heard. Came twice last summer. Funny little man. Made the footmen laugh so hard they dropped a tray of champagne glasses. Cost me a fortune, but worth every penny. Charlie Chaplin. The name means nothing to you. Some actor, apparently. Famous enough that even Mr. Harrington knows who he is. Footsteps behind you. You jump back from the door just as a footman rounds the corner. Lost, miss? No, sir. Just delivering towels. He looks at you. Looks at the slightly open door. His expression doesn't change. Best be quick about it then. You hurry away, heart pounding. Did he know you were listening? Will he report you to Mrs. Whitmore? But the afternoon passes without incident. Either he didn't notice or he didn't care. Servants overhear things all the time. It's impossible not to, living in the walls of these houses. The smart ones pretend they're deaf. The Phippses arrive at 5, just as Sarah predicted. John Phipps is tall and thin, with the look of a man who's never worried about anything in his life. His wife Margarita is British, and you can hear it in every syllable. Her accent makes the Harringtons sound almost common by comparison. "Darling," she says to Mrs. Harrington, offering her cheek for a kiss. "The drive was absolute murder. These American roads. I don't know how you stand it." "We manage," Mrs. Harrington replies, and something passes between them. Some private joke or private war? Impossible to tell. The Phipps children are older than the Harrington girls. 2 sons in their 20s, already married, already starting dynasties of their own. They've brought their wives, elegant women who look at Miss Eleanor with something like pity. 20 and unmarried. In their world, that's practically a spinster. Dinner is at 8. You won't see any of it, of course. Third housemaids don't serve at table. That's footman's work and upper servants' work, and the kind of precise choreography that takes years to master. But you hear about it later, in the servants' hall, while the upper servants eat their own dinner at the good end of the table. 7 courses, Annie whispers to you. Started with oysters, then soup, then fish, then meat, then game, then salad, then dessert. Different wine with every course, different silver, different china. How long did it take? 3 hours. They sat at that table for 3 hours. 3 hours to eat dinner. Back home you ate standing up half the time, shoving bread into your mouth between chores. Here, dinner is a performance, an event. Something that requires 7 courses and 3 hours, and a team of servants working in perfect synchronization. After dinner, the ladies withdraw to the drawing room while the men stay for cigars and brandy. That's when the real business happens, Sarah told you once. The men make deals while pretending to relax. Railroad investments, stock tips, political maneuvers, all disguised as casual conversation over expensive tobacco. You're assigned to check the bedrooms while the family's downstairs, turn down the beds, light the lamps, make sure everything's perfect for whenever they decide to stumble upstairs. The Kahns are staying in the blue room and the green room. Mrs. Kahn's things are arranged with military precision on her dressing table. Perfume bottles in size order, hairbrushes aligned. A photograph of her children in a silver frame positioned to catch the light. Mr. Kahn's room is different. Papers everywhere. Books stacked on the nightstand, on the desk, on the floor beside the bed. You recognise some of the titles from the spine. Philosophy, economics, a volume of poetry in German. So he reads. Actually reads, not just owns books to impress visitors. There's something humanising about that. Something that makes him less like a character from a story and more like a person. You turn down his bed, careful not to disturb the papers, light the lamp, check the water pitcher. On his desk there's a letter, half written. You shouldn't look, you really shouldn't, but your eyes catch a phrase anyway. They will never accept us no matter how much we give, but perhaps that's not the point. Perhaps the point is to build something beautiful anyway, something that will outlast their prejudice. You look away, feel something complicated twist in your chest. He knows. Of course he knows. He built a castle on a hill and filled it with artists and actors, and threw the biggest parties Long Island has ever seen, and he knows none of it will ever be enough. The old money families will take his champagne and dance in his ballroom and still look down on him for being born on the wrong side of some line they drew before he was even born. You think about your own unmarked lines: Irish, Catholic, servant, the things that mark you as lesser in this world, no matter how hard you work. At least you and Otto Kahn have that much in common. The Phipps rooms are on the other side of the guest wing. Margarita Phipps has brought what looks like half of England with her. Trunks and hat boxes and garment bags and a jewellery case that probably contains more wealth than your whole village. Her lady's maid is British too, a sharp-faced woman named Collins who looks at you like you're something stuck to her shoe. The mistress requires her bed warmed, Collins says. See to it. Yes, ma'am. You fetch the warming pan from the closet, fill it with hot coals from the fireplace, and run it between the sheets until the chill is gone. It's a simple task, but Collins watches you like you might set the bed on fire. Irish, are you? Yes, ma'am, County Cork. She doesn't say anything else, but her expression says enough. Irish servants are common here, but they're not exactly respected. Too wild, the English think. Too superstitious. Too Catholic. You finish warming the bed and escape before she can find something else to criticise. The evening wears on. Laughter drifts up from the drawing room. Music starts at some point, a gramophone playing something jazzy. The Khan's influence, probably. Mr. Khan and his jazz. By 11, the family starts retiring. The men first, surprisingly. Then the older women. The young people stay up later, dancing in the music room, their footsteps echoing through the floors above your head. You're dismissed at midnight, but sleep doesn't come easily. Your mind keeps circling back to that letter on Otto Kahn's desk. They will never accept us. Something beautiful anyway. Is that what you're doing here? Building something beautiful in a world that will never accept you? Finding meaning in work that's designed to make you unseen? Or are you just surviving? Just getting through each day, earning your $20, sending money home to a family you might never see again? You don't know, can't know, not yet. But as you lie there in the darkness, listening to Annie and Ruth breathe, you think about castles on hills and the people who build them, the people who fill them with art and music and laughter, trying to prove something to a world that's already made up its mind. Maybe that's all any of us can do. Build something beautiful. Hope someone notices. The house settles around you, creaking floors and sighing walls and the distant sound of footsteps on the servants' stairs. Someone's still awake. Someone's always still awake. The machine never stops, not really. It just slows down in the small hours, catching its breath before dawn brings another day. Tomorrow there will be breakfast to prepare and rooms to clean and guests to accommodate. Tomorrow the Harringtons and the Kahns and the Phippses will wake to warm rooms and fresh water, never wondering how it got there. But tonight, for just a moment, you let yourself wonder about them, about the loneliness of building castles, about the weight of pearls and the prison of privilege. They have everything you'll never have, but maybe in some small way they're trapped too. The thought doesn't comfort you exactly, but it makes the world feel a little less divided, a little more human. You close your eyes. The letter stays with you as you drift towards sleep. Something beautiful anyway. Yes, maybe that's the point. The wind picks up outside, rattling the window in its frame. A storm coming maybe, or just the Long Island sound, breathing in and out like something alive. You sleep. And somewhere below, in a castle on a hill, the last dancers finally stop their spinning and head upstairs to beds that are already warm, sheets already turned, lamps already lit. They don't know your name. Will never know your name. but you're the reason their world works. And for now, that has to be enough. In your dreams, you're back in County Cork. Your mother is showing you how to set a table, the way she does for Sunday dinner when the priest comes. 2 plates, 2 forks, 2 knives. Simple, clean, poor but dignified. This is how we do things, Dream Mother says. We make the best of what we have. Then the table stretches, grows, expands until it fills the whole world. Plates multiply like magic. 7 courses, 20 courses, 100 courses. Footmen appear from nowhere, carrying silver trays piled with food you've never seen. This is how they do things, Dream Mother says, and she sounds so far away now. They make the best of what they have too. They just have more. You wake to the sound of rain on the window. Grey light. Early morning. The household already stirring below. Annie is sitting on her bed, brushing her hair. Storm came through around 4, she says. Knocked down a tree in the west garden. The gardeners are going mad. A tree down. More work for someone. More problems to solve before the family notices. What time is it? 5:30. Bell will ring soon. You get up, wash, dress. The routine is automatic now. Your body knows what to do without your mind getting involved. Downstairs, the servants' hall is buzzing with quiet tension. The storm has disrupted everything. Water got into the conservatory through a cracked window. The driveway is flooded in places, and the luncheon planned for the terrace will have to move indoors. Brennan, Mrs. Whitmore says, finding you in the chaos. You're on conservatory duty today. Help the gardeners clean up the water damage. The conservatory is worse than Annie described. Inches of water on the floor. Orchids knocked over. A palm tree, ancient and imported from somewhere tropical, lying on its side like a fallen soldier. You work alongside 2 gardeners whose names you don't know, mopping, baling, writing plants. The water is cold and your uniform is soaked within minutes, but there's no time to change. By 10 o'clock the worst is cleaned up. The palm tree is saved. The orchids are replanted. The cracked window is boarded up temporarily, waiting for a glazier from the village. Good work, one of the gardeners says to you. It's the first compliment you've received from anyone outside the house staff. Thank you, sir. Not sir, just Patrick. I'm Irish too, if you couldn't tell from the name. Patrick is maybe 40, with sun-weathered skin and hands that look like they've spent decades in soil. He's been at this estate for 15 years, he tells you while you're wringing out mops. Started as a hall boy. Hated being indoors. Asked to transfer to the gardens and never looked back. Do you like it better? Outside? He considers the question seriously. I like growing things. Seeing something start as a seed and turn into something beautiful. That's satisfying in a way that polishing silver never was. But you're still a servant. Still a servant, he agrees. But out here I can pretend I'm not. The gardens don't know who owns them. They just grow. The gardens don't know who owns them. You think about that as you finish cleaning the conservatory. The roses don't care about social hierarchies. The hedges don't understand old money and new money. They just exist. They just bloom. Maybe there's a kind of freedom in that. A small freedom, but real. By noon, you're back in your regular uniform, back to regular duties. The storm feels like a distant memory. The house has absorbed the crisis and moved on, the same way it absorbs everything. Luncheon is served in the formal dining room instead of the terrace. You help carry extra chairs from storage, setting them around the periphery of the room for the children and the less important guests. Less important? Even among the rich, there are rankings. Even at their own table, there's a hierarchy of who sits where, who gets served first, who matters most. Through the door, you catch glimpses of the meal. Soup in bowls so thin you can see light through them. Fish on beds of something green and leafy. conversation that rises and falls like music. Mrs. Khan is telling a story about Paris, something about a sculptor she met at a salon. He was absolutely penniless, she says, but his work was extraordinary. Otto bought 3 pieces on the spot. Always collecting, Mr. Harrington says. Artists, musicians, actors. Quite the zoo, as your wife says. There's something pointed in his tone, something that makes the table go quiet for just a moment. I collect what interests me, Charles. Mr. Khan's voice is mild, but you can hear the steel underneath. That's the privilege of building your own fortune. You get to decide what matters. Building your own fortune, as opposed to inheriting it. The difference matters here in ways you're only beginning to understand. Old money looks down on new money. New money resents old money. And everyone looks down on the people who have no money at all. It's a ladder with no top and no bottom. Just rungs upon rungs upon rungs. Everyone climbing, everyone watching the person above and the person below. Where do you fit? At the bottom, obviously. So far down you're practically underground. But at least from down here, you can see the whole structure. See how absurd it is, how fragile. The soup bowls are cleared. The fish arrives. Conversation resumes, and you step back into the shadows, invisible once more. The day grinds on. Afternoon duties. Evening preparations. The storm is already forgotten, replaced by new concerns, new demands, new crises that probably aren't crises at all. By the time you climb the servants' stairs that night, your legs are shaking with exhaustion. But it's a familiar exhaustion now, almost comfortable. Ruth and Annie are already in bed when you arrive. The room is dark except for moonlight through the window. You change without lighting a candle, slip between the sheets, let the mattress catch you. Tomorrow there will be more guests. A party is being planned for the weekend. 300 people dancing in the ballroom you scrubbed on your hands and knees. You won't be at that party, won't be anywhere near it. Third housemaids don't attend parties, they clean up after them. But you'll know it's happening. We'll feel the vibrations through the floor. We'll hear the music drifting through the walls. And maybe that's something. To be close to the light, even if you're standing in the shadows. The moon moves across the sky. The house settles into sleep. And you drift off thinking about gardeners who pretend they're free, about castles built on hills, about the strange kind of beauty you can create in a world that will never let you claim it. The party is Saturday. Today is Wednesday. And the house has lost its mind. You wake to shouting, actual shouting, which never happens in a well-run household. Mrs. Whitmore's voice, sharp enough to cut glass, echoing up through the servants' stairs. The ice delivery is wrong. 40 blocks instead of 400. Find me Thompson now. 40 blocks instead of 400. Someone's getting fired, or worse, promoted to a job where they can't do any more damage. By the time you reach the servants' hall, chaos has fully taken hold. Kitchen maids are running in every direction. Footmen are carrying crates of champagne that seem to have materialized from nowhere. Someone has knocked over a bucket of cleaning solution, and the smell of ammonia is making your eyes water. Brennan! Sarah appears at your elbow, her face flushed. You're on silver today, polishing. The main dining set needs to be ready by Friday. The main dining set. 300 pieces, knives, forks, spoons, serving dishes. The whole lot hasn't been used since the Vanderbilts came for Christmas. It's tarnished black. 300 pieces. Your hands ache just thinking about it. The silver vault is in the basement behind a locked door that only Mr. Jennings has the key to. He opens it for you and Sarah without a word, then disappears back into the chaos. Inside, the vault looks like a dragon's hoard. Silver everywhere, stacked on shelves from floor to ceiling. Candlesticks and platters and tureens and things you don't even have names for. All of it dark with tarnish, layered with years of neglect. Start with the flatware, Sarah says, handing you a jar of polish and a soft cloth. Work from dullest to shiniest. Don't miss the tines of the forks, Mrs. Whitmore checks. You sit on a wooden stool and begin. The polish smells like rotten eggs. It stains your fingers grey within minutes. But there's something meditative about the work. Take a knife, apply polish, rub in circles, wipe clean. Watch the silver emerge from the darkness like something being born. 1 knife becomes 10, 10 becomes 50. Your arm burns, your fingers cramp. But the pile of shining silver grows, and there's satisfaction in that. Sarah works beside you in silence. She's faster than you'll ever be, her hands moving with the efficiency of long practice. But even she pauses sometimes, flexing her fingers, wincing at some invisible pain. How many parties have you done, you ask her? Lost count. Dozens, maybe. The Harringtons throw one almost every weekend during season, but this one's different. How? 300 guests. Usually it's maybe 100, 150. This is something else. Mrs. Harrington is trying to outdo the Carnes, if you ask me. Outdo the Carnes, who throw parties for 500 guests in a ballroom with 39 fireplaces. The competition among rich people to prove they're the richest seems exhausting. What happens at these parties? Sarah shrugs. Dancing mostly, drinking. The men talk business on the terrace while the women gossip in the drawing room. Sometimes there's entertainment. Last summer they brought in a man from the city who did magic tricks, made a dove appear from Mrs. Phipps's handbag. And we just stay hidden? That's the job. We work before, during and after, setting up, serving, cleaning up, but they never see us, never know we're there. Never know we're there. The motto of the Gold Coast servant. By noon, you've finished the flatware. Your fingers are raw despite the polish. But there are still the serving dishes to do, the candelabras, the centrepiece, an enormous silver swan that must weigh 30 pounds. Bridget brings you lunch in the vault, soup and bread and a sympathetic look. I heard you were on silver. My condolences. How's the kitchen? War zone. She shakes her head. Chef Henri is threatening to quit. Says he can't possibly prepare a 7-course meal for 300 with only 5 assistants. Mrs. Whitmore told him he'd manage perfectly well at the Waldorf with 3. It did not go over well. Chef Henri. You've seen him once or twice, a small French man with a temper the size of the Atlantic. He was poached from the Waldorf Astoria 2 years ago, Bridget told you. Cost the Harringtons a fortune. But apparently having a famous chef is part of the game. Is he actually any good, you ask? His sauces could make a boiled shoe taste like heaven. His personality could curdle cream from across the room. Welcome to working with geniuses. What's the menu? Bridget recites from memory. Oysters. Rockefeller to start. Then turtle soup. Then sole meunière. Then lamb with mint sauce. Then squab with wild rice. Then a salad with 3 kinds of cheese. Then baked Alaska for dessert. 7 courses, different wine with each, and that's before the champagne for dancing. Oysters, Rockefeller. Turtle soup. Squab. Words you've heard but never tasted. Words that represent a kind of eating you can't even imagine. What do we get? Whatever's left over, if there's anything left over. She squeezes your shoulder and heads back to the kitchen. You pick up the polish again. The afternoon wears on. More silver emerges from the darkness. Your reflection stares back at you from a dozen polished surfaces, distorted and strange. Around 4 o'clock the florists arrive. 3 vans worth of them, unloading roses and lilies and hothouse orchids by the armful. The conservatory becomes their staging ground, and the smell drifts through the whole house, sweet and heavy and almost overwhelming. 2,000 flowers, Annie tells you later, when you're finally released from the silver vault. They're making centerpieces for every table, and garlands for the staircase, and something called a floral arch for the entrance hall. 2,000 flowers for one night, for one party. The cost of it would feed your whole village for a year. Thursday is worse. The musicians arrive to set up in the ballroom, 12 of them, carrying instruments in black cases. They're from New York, someone says. A famous orchestra. They're costing the Harringtons $200 for the night. $200. 10 months of your salary for a single night of music. You watch them through a gap in the servants' door, setting up their stands and tuning their instruments. The sounds they make are strange and beautiful. Jazzy, like Mr. Khan talked about. Modern. Nothing like the folk songs you grew up with. The head musician is a young black man with a smile that lights up his whole face. He's directing the others, tapping his foot, occasionally breaking into a little dance that makes the other musicians laugh. "Who's that?" you whisper to Ruth, who's watching beside you. "Don't know his name, but I heard Mrs. Harrington tell Mrs. Khan that she'd booked the best jazz band on the East Coast. Cost extra because they're coloured," she said, like that's something that should cost extra. You don't understand the politics of it. Back home, you'd never seen a black person until you reach New York, but you understand the look on the musician's face, the way he knows his worth, the way he refuses to shrink in a room full of rich white people. That takes a kind of courage you're not sure you possess. The tent arrives Friday morning, an actual tent, silk and striped, to be erected on the back lawn for overflow guests. It takes 12 men 4 hours to raise it, and when it's finished, it looks like something from a fairy tale, a palace of fabric and light. Inside, workers are laying a portable dance floor, stringing lanterns, arranging tables and chairs, creating an entire world that will exist for one night and then vanish. Mrs. Whitmore wants the upstairs rooms done twice, Sarah tells you, dragging you away from the spectacle. The family's gonna need somewhere to rest during the party. Everything has to be perfect. Perfect. That word again. As if perfection is something you can achieve through enough scrubbing. You spend Friday cleaning rooms you already cleaned Wednesday, checking windows you already checked, fluffing pillows that were already fluffed. The anxiety in the house is contagious. Everyone moves faster, speaks sharper, makes mistakes they wouldn't normally make. A footman drops a tray of glasses. Mrs. Whitmore nearly has a stroke. Chef Henri actually does quit briefly, but is talked back by Mr. Jennings and the promise of a bonus. By Friday evening, you're running on 4 hours of sleep over 2 days. Your eyes feel like sand. Your hands shake when you're not holding something, but the house is ready. The ballroom gleams, the silver shines, the flowers perfume every corner. The tent glows on the back lawn like a lantern. The musicians have rehearsed. The kitchen is stocked. 300 bottles of champagne wait in the ice that finally arrived, all 400 blocks of it. Mrs. Whitmore gathers the staff in the servants' hall for final instructions. Tomorrow will be the most important night this household has seen in years. I expect nothing less than absolute professionalism from every one of you. Any mistakes will be dealt with severely. Any absences will result in immediate dismissal. Is that clear? "Yes, ma'am," comes the chorus. "Very well, get some sleep, you'll need it." Sleep. As if sleep is possible after a week like this. You climb the stairs to your room on legs that feel like wood. Ruth is already in bed, face down, not even under the covers. Annie is staring at the ceiling with the 1,000-yard gaze of someone who's seen too much. "Did you hear?" Annie says. "The Vanderbilts are coming. The actual Vanderbilts. William Vanderbilt himself from Eagle's Nest." The Vanderbilts, a name even you know. Railroads, shipping, more money than God. And that's not all. Someone said President Coolidge might show up. Mrs. Whitmore thinks it's just a rumour, but she's got extra security posted just in case. The President of the United States, at a party in Long Island. It sounds like something from a novel. You lie on your bed without bothering to undress. The ceiling above you is cracked in one corner. You've counted the lines 100 times. They look like rivers on a map. Tomorrow, 300 of the richest people in America will dance beneath crystal chandeliers and drink champagne that costs more than your yearly wage. They'll eat 7 courses prepared by a French chef and listen to the best jazz band on the East Coast. And you'll be there, unseen, essential, forgotten. The thought should make you angry. Maybe it does, somewhere deep down. But mostly you're just tired. Too tired for anger. Too tired for anything but the slow slide toward unconsciousness. Outside, the night is warm. You can smell the flowers from here, even through the closed window. 2,000 blooms, breathing their sweetness into the darkness. Tomorrow, everything happens tomorrow. You close your eyes, and despite everything, despite the exhaustion and the ache in muscles and the nervous flutter in your chest, you feel something that might be excitement. You've never seen a party like this, never even imagined one. Back home, a party was a fiddle and some poutine in someone's barn, dancing until your feet hurt and then dancing some more. This will be something else entirely, something you'll tell your grandchildren about if you ever have grandchildren. The night the Vanderbilts came, the night the president might have showed up, the night 300 of the richest people in the world danced in a house you helped prepare. You won't be at the party, but you'll be there. And maybe that's something. Maybe that's enough. The house settles around you, quieter than it's been all week, catching its breath before the storm. Tomorrow the machine kicks into its highest gear. Tonight you rest. Your breathing slows. Your muscles unclench. The tension of the week begins to drain away, leaving only a kind of empty peace. In the ballroom, the chandeliers hang ready. In the kitchen, the ovens are prepped. In the garden, the tent waits like a silk dream. Everything is ready. Everything except you. But you'll be ready by morning. You always are. Because that's what servants do. They endure. They adapt. They become whatever the moment requires. And tomorrow, the moment requires a miracle. You'll be part of that miracle. A small part. A hidden part. But still, a part. You sleep. And somewhere in the depths of the house, a clock strikes midnight, and Saturday begins. But sleep doesn't come easy. Your mind keeps turning over the details of the past week, cataloguing everything that could go wrong tomorrow. The ice could melt, the flowers could wilt, the souffle could collapse, a guest could get drunk and break something priceless, a servant could trip and spill champagne on a Vanderbilt. So many ways for disaster, so many fragile pieces that all have to work together. You think about Mrs. Whitmore, who hasn't slept more than 3 hours a night all week, about Mr. Jennings, who's been coordinating with the hired servers from the city, drilling them on proper form until they can recite the etiquette in their sleep, about Chef Henri, who threw a pot of sauce against the wall yesterday and then spent an hour cleaning it up himself, too proud to ask for help. You think about the musicians in their temporary quarters above the carriage house. Do they sleep well before a performance? Or do they lie awake like you, running through every possible mistake? The band leader, the one with the bright smile. He'd been practicing scales all afternoon, his trumpet notes drifting across the lawn like birdsong. There's a rumour going around the servants' quarters that he once played for the Prince of Wales. That royalty has danced to his music, and tomorrow you'll hear him play. Through the walls, through the floor, through the whole vibrating body of the house. You'll know every song he plays, even if you never see him perform. That's something, isn't it? You roll over. The pillow is warm from your body heat. Through the window you can see stars, clearer here than they ever were in County Cork somehow. Less coal smoke in the air, the same stars that shine over Ireland shine over Long Island. Your mother is probably asleep right now in the cottage where you grew up. Or maybe she's awake too, thinking about you, wondering what your life looks like on the other side of the ocean. If she could see you now, if she could see this house, these gardens, this world you've somehow stumbled into, would she be proud, horrified, some mixture of both? You don't know, can't know until you write her another letter, and there's been no time for letters this week. No time for anything except polishing silver and scrubbing floors and preparing for the spectacle to come. Tomorrow, you promise yourself. After the party. After everything's cleaned up and put away and the guests have gone home in their motor cars, you'll write to her. Tell her about the Kahns and the Phippses and the 2,000 flowers. Tell her about the jazz band and the silk tent and the 7-course dinner. She won't believe half of it. You barely believe it yourself. Your eyes are heavy now, finally heavy. The exhaustion catching up with you at last. You let go. And in that soft space between waking and sleeping, you see it all laid out before you like a vision. The ballroom lit up like a jewel box, the musicians playing, the guests swirling in their silks and diamonds, the champagne flowing, the laughter rising, and you in the shadows watching it all, part of the magic, even if no one ever knows. Your breathing deepens, your heart slows. The house holds you like a mother holds a child, safely, gently. Tomorrow everything changes, but tonight you rest. The moon moves across the window, the stars wheel overhead, and in the servants' quarters of one of the grandest houses in America, a girl from County Cork dreams of dancing. She dreams of wearing silk instead of cotton, dreams of pearls around her throat, dreams of walking through the front door instead of the servants' entrance, of climbing the grand staircase instead of the hidden one. In her dream, the bandleader sees her across the room, smiles that bright smile, extends his hand. May I have this dance? And she takes it. And they spin across the floor together, past the Vanderbilts and the Kahns and the Harringtons, past Mrs. Whitmore and Mr. Jennings and everyone who's ever told her to stay out of sight. In the dream, she's seen. In the dream, she matters. And then the dream fades, as dreams do. And she sinks deeper into sleep, into that dark, peaceful place where nothing exists but rest. The clock ticks on, the party waits, and the night passes, minute by minute, hour by hour, carrying her gently toward the dawn. Saturday arrives like a held breath finally released. You're up before the bell, before the sun even, lying in your bed staring at the ceiling, listening to the house wake around you. Footsteps in the corridor, doors opening and closing, the distant clatter of pots in the kitchen, 4 floors below. Chef Henri never went to bed. Someone will tell you later. He spent the whole night preparing sauces, perfecting garnishes, turning food into art. You wash and dress in the dark, moving quietly so you don't wake Annie and Ruth. But they're already stirring. Everyone's already stirring. The whole house is electric with anticipation. The servants' hall is standing room only by 5:30. Every member of staff, indoor and outdoor, hired and permanent, crammed into the basement room for Mrs. Whitmore's final briefing. Today is the day, she says, and her voice carries that particular weight that makes even the most seasoned servant stand straighter. Everything we've worked for comes down to the next 16 hours. I expect excellence. I expect invisibility. I expect you to represent this household as if your lives depend on it. Because in a way, they do. A bad reference from the Harringtons would follow you forever, would close doors before you even knew they existed. Positions, Mrs. Whitmore says. Now. The day begins. Your assignment is the family bedrooms. Keep them perfect throughout the party. Empty any chamber pots. Refresh any water. Make sure the candles stay lit. The family and their closest guests may retreat upstairs at any point, and everything must be immaculate. It sounds simple. It won't be. By noon, the first motorcars are appearing on the horizon. The drive fills with black vehicles gleaming in the summer sun, disgorging passengers in silk and satin and more jewellery than you've ever seen in one place. You watch from the third-floor window, the same place you watch the Khans arrive. But this is different. This is a flood. Car after car after car. Chauffeurs in matching uniforms. Footmen rushing to open doors and collect luggage. Ladies stepping carefully onto the gravel in shoes that probably cost more than your passage to America. And the names. You hear them whispered through the servants' network, passed from maid to footman to kitchen boy. The Astors are here, the Morgans, the Rockefellers, the Whitneys, and yes, the Vanderbilts. William K. Vanderbilt II himself, arriving in a motorcar that looks like something from a museum. He's smaller than you imagined. Quiet. His wife Rosamond is the one who commands attention, sweeping up the steps in a gown that catches the light like liquid gold. From your window, you can see the back lawn too, the silk tent glowing in the afternoon sun. Servants arranging final details, the orchestra setting up on a temporary stage, the band leader in his white jacket testing his trumpet with quick, bright notes. Brennan, Sarah appears at your elbow. Miss Eleanor needs her room freshened. She's changing for the evening. Miss Eleanor, the older daughter, 20 years old and unmarried, which apparently makes her the subject of endless gossip among the guests. You've heard whispers about an engagement that fell through, a scandal of some kind, but nobody tells third housemaids the real stories. You slip through the servant's door into Miss Eleanor's dressing room. She's there, standing before her mirror in a silk robe, while a lady's maid fastens pearls around her throat. You freeze. You're not supposed to be seen. But Miss Eleanor barely glances at you. Her eyes are focused on her own reflection, searching for something. Imperfection, maybe. Or hope. The blue dress, she says to her maid. Not the silver. Mother will hate it, but I don't care. Yes, miss. You move silently to the washstand. Replace the water. Check the towels. Invisible, just as you were trained. Do you think he'll come? Miss Eleanor asks. She's not talking to you. She's not talking to anyone, really. Just thinking out loud. Who, miss? The lady's maid, playing along. Frederick. He said he might, in his last letter. Frederick. A name to put to the photograph on her dresser. The young man in the military uniform. I'm sure he will, miss, if he said he would. But something in Miss Eleanor's reflection says she's not sure at all. You slip out the way you came, back through the servant's door, into the hidden corridor, carrying the dirty water to the slop room. She looked sad. That's what strikes you as you climb down the narrow stairs. She was standing in a room full of silk and pearls, getting ready for the party of the season, and she looked sad. Maybe money doesn't fix everything after all. The afternoon dissolves into evening. The party begins at 6 officially, but guests have been arriving for hours. By the time the sun starts to set, the house is full to bursting. You can feel it through the walls, the vibration of 300 bodies moving and talking and laughing, the bass notes of the orchestra starting up in the ballroom, the clink of glasses, over and over like a strange kind of music. Your job keeps you upstairs, but there are moments, gaps in the structure that let you glimpse the world below. Through a service door left slightly open, you see the entrance hall. Guests milling beneath the chandelier, champagne flutes in hand, diamonds catching the light. The women's dresses are works of art. Beaded, embroidered, flowing like water. The men are penguins by comparison, identical in their black and white, distinguished only by their faces, and such faces. You recognize some of them from the society pages Bridget sometimes smuggles into the servants' quarters. Actors and industrialists and politicians, the people who shape the world. They look smaller in person, more human. A woman laughs too loud and her companion shushes her. A man spills champagne on his shirt and mutters something that sounds like a curse. An elderly gentleman falls asleep in a chair near the fireplace, snoring gently while the party swirls around him. They're just people. Richer than God, yes. More powerful than you'll ever be. But still people. They spill things and snore and laugh too loud. The thought is strangely comforting. Around 8, you're summoned to the ballroom. A minor crisis. Someone's knocked over a candelabra and hot wax has splattered across the parquet floor. You enter through the servants' door, the one hidden behind a panel of wallpaper. For a moment, just a moment, you're inside the party. The ballroom is transformed, every chandelier blazing, every surface gleaming. The orchestra on their raised platform playing something fast and syncopated, something that makes you want to move your feet even as you're supposed to be invisible. And the dancers, God, the dancers, they fill the floor in swirling pairs, spinning and dipping and laughing. The women's dresses flare like flowers. The men guide them with practiced hands. The music carries them all, lifting them up, spinning them around, binding them together in something that looks almost like joy. You've never seen anything like it. Back home, dancing was stamping your feet in a circle while someone played a fiddle. This is something else. This is choreography, art, 100 bodies moving as one. The wax. You're here for the wax. You drop to your knees in the corner, scraping at the spilled candle with a small knife, working fast, trying not to draw attention. Around you, the party continues as if you're not there, which of course you're not to them. A pair of shoes appears in your vision. Small, elegant, beaded. A woman's shoes stopped right beside you. "Excuse me." You look up. It's Mrs. Khan, Addie Khan, wife of the castle builder. She's looking down at you with an expression you can't quite read. "Yes, ma'am." You missed a spot. "There." She points with one gloved finger at a streak of wax you hadn't noticed. "Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am." She nods once, then moves away, disappearing back into the crowd, and you're left kneeling on the floor of the most spectacular party on Long Island, scraping wax from wood that costs more than your yearly salary. But she saw you. For just a moment, she saw you. It shouldn't matter, but somehow it does. You finish the wax and slip back through the servants' door. The music follows you, muffled now, thumping through the walls like a heartbeat. The night wears on. Courses are served and cleared. Champagne bottles are emptied and replaced. The dancing continues, interrupted only by toasts and speeches and brief interludes where the orchestra catches its breath. At midnight, something changes. The orchestra stops playing jazz and starts playing something softer. A waltz, maybe. The lights dim. A hush falls over the crowd. You're on the 3rd floor, changing candles in Mrs. Harrington's sitting room when you hear it. A single voice, rising above the silence. A man singing in Italian. The notes so pure and clear they seem to pierce the walls. You move to the window. Below, in the garden, guests are spilling out of the ballroom onto the terrace. They're all looking at something. Someone. A man stands on the temporary stage, alone now except for a pianist. He's round and barrel-chested, with a voice that seems too big for his body. Each note hangs in the summer air like something solid. Something you could touch. "Caruso," someone whispers. You don't know who. Another servant may be watching from another window. Enrico Caruso, the most famous tenor in the world, singing in the garden of a house on Long Island while 300 of the richest people in America stand in breathless silence. He sings for maybe 10 minutes, maybe 15. You lose track of time, lost in the music, in the impossible beauty of a human voice doing things you didn't know voices could do. When he finishes, the applause is like thunder. It rolls across the lawn, echoes off the walls, rises up to where you're standing at your window, and for just a moment you feel like part of it, like you're applauding too, even though your hands are full of dirty candle stubs. The party continues after that, but something has shifted. The energy is different, quieter. People drift in small groups, talking softly, as if they're still under the spell of the music. By 2 a.m, the guests start to leave, not all at once, in waves. The oldest first, helped into their motor cars by tired footmen. Then the middle-aged, making polite excuses. Then finally the young, who dance until there's no one left to dance with. Miss Eleanor is among the last to retire. You see her climbing the grand staircase, still in her blue dress, alone. No Frederick at her side. He didn't come. Whoever he was, whatever he meant to her, he didn't come. She looks beautiful and broken in the light of the dying candles, like something from one of those novels on her nightstand, a heroine at the end of her story. But her story isn't over. None of their stories are over. They'll wake up tomorrow with headaches and memories, and the whole machine will start turning again. The cleanup begins before the last guest has left. Servants appear from every corner of the house, collecting glasses and emptying ashtrays and restoring order to chaos. You work until dawn, until the sun rises over Long Island Sound and paints the sky pink and gold, until the ballroom is empty and clean and silent again, waiting for the next party. By the time you climb the stairs to your room, your body has stopped sending pain signals. Everything is just numb, a distant kind of exhaustion that feels almost peaceful. Annie and Ruth are already asleep, still in their uniforms, collapsed on their beds like soldiers after battle. You should change, should wash, should do all the things a proper person does before sleeping, but you can't. You don't have the strength. You fall onto your bed still dressed. The mattress catches you. The pillow accepts your head. And as you drift toward unconsciousness, you hear music. Not the orchestra, not Caruso. Something softer, closer. Someone is humming in the corridor. One of the maids, maybe, finishing a final task. The melody is familiar. One of the jazz songs from earlier, transformed into something gentle. A lullaby version of a party song. You close your eyes. The party is over. The guests are gone. The house is quiet except for that humming, fading now as the maid moves away, leaving only silence. But in your memory, the dancers still spin. The champagne still flows. Caruso still sings under the summer stars. You were there, you saw it, you were part of it, even if no one will ever know, and that's something, that's everything. The sun climbs higher. The day begins, but you're already gone, fallen into the deep dreamless sleep of the truly exhausted. Tomorrow there will be more work, more cleaning, more labour that no one sees, but for now you rest. The party plays on in your dreams, and somewhere, in a house on Long Island, in a ballroom that's already been scrubbed clean, the echoes of music and laughter slowly fade, until the next time, until the next party, until the whole glittering world spins back to life again. But wait, before you drift away completely, before the dreams take you, there's one more thing, one moment that will stay with you long after everything else fades. It happened around 11, just before Caruso sang. You were in the servants' corridor carrying a tray of fresh candles to the music room when you heard voices through the wall. Not party voices, something different, quieter, more intense, You stopped. You shouldn't have. But you did. Through a crack in the panelling, you could see into a small parlour off the main hall. Two men stood by the window, their backs to the party, talking in low, urgent tones. One was Mr. Harrington. The other was a man you didn't recognise. Older, silver-haired, with the kind of face that looked like it had never smiled in its life. The market can't sustain this forever, Charles. The silver-haired man's voice was barely above a whisper. The speculation is out of control. Everyone's buying on margin. When it corrects, and it will correct, the fall will be catastrophic. You've been saying that for years, William, and yet the market keeps climbing. Trees don't grow to the sky. Neither do stock prices. I've moved half my portfolio into bonds. I suggest you do the same. A pause. Mr. Harrington swirled something in a glass you couldn't see. You may be right, but not yet. There's still money to be made. There's always money to be made, until suddenly there isn't. The silver-haired man set down his drink and walked away. Mr. Harrington stayed at the window staring out at the party, his expression unreadable. You moved on, delivered your candles, forgot about it mostly. But now, lying in bed, the conversation drifts back to you. Something about the way they talked. The worry underneath the words, as if they knew something the dancing guests below didn't know. Trees don't grow to the sky, neither do stock prices. What did that mean? You don't understand money, not the kind of money they have, but something about the warning stays with you. A chill that has nothing to do with the temperature. You push it away. It's not your problem. You're a housemaid from County Cork. The rise and fall of stock markets has nothing to do with you. But still. The thought lingers as you finally slip under, and in your dreams, the party continues. But now there's something else, something in the corners, a shadow, a sense that all of this, the silk and the champagne and the dancing, all of this is built on something fragile, something that could fall. You dream of castles crumbling, of ballrooms emptying, of music stopping mid-note and dancers frozen where they stand. You dream of Otto Kahn's letter. They will never accept us. Build something beautiful anyway. But what happens when the beautiful things fall? What happens to the servants when the castles crumble? Where do the unseen go when the ones who are seen disappear? The dreams darken, the music fades, and you sink deeper, past the worry, past the fear, into the quiet, empty place where nothing exists but rest. Your body is done, your mind is done. For the next few hours you'll be gone from the world, and the world will keep turning without you. The sun rises fully now. The Long Island Sound catches the light and throws it back in a million golden fragments. The gardens below are still, the flowers nodding in the morning breeze. In the ballroom, the last traces of the party have been erased. No wax on the floor, no champagne stains on the silk, everything perfect again, waiting for the next event. In the kitchen, Chef Henri has finally gone to bed. He collapsed on a cot in the pantry around 4, too tired to climb the stairs to his room. His assistants have taken over breakfast preparations. Eggs and toast and coffee for the guests who'll wake late and hungry. In the servants' hall, the first shift is already assembling. The morning crew, red-eyed and yawning, listening to Mrs. Whitmore's briefing. There's no rest for them. The machine doesn't stop. But you sleep. Your chest rises and falls with the slow rhythm of true exhaustion. Your face is peaceful. Your hands, still stained grey from silver polish, lie open on the sheets. You've earned this, these few hours of oblivion, this small space of quiet in a world that never stops demanding. Ruth stirs in the bed beside yours, mumbles something about candles, falls back asleep. Annie snores softly, her mouth slightly open, her cap still pinned to her hair. 3 servants in a small room at the top of a castle. 3 women who made the impossible look effortless. Nobody will thank you. Nobody will remember your name. When people talk about this party, years from now, they'll remember Caruso singing under the stars. They'll remember the Vanderbilts and the champagne and the dancing. They won't remember the girl who scraped wax from the floor. But you were there. You made it happen. And somewhere, in some record that matters, that counts for something. The morning passes. The sun climbs higher. The house begins to wake. Soon, someone will come to rouse you. Soon, you'll have to rise again, wash again, dress again, begin again. But not yet. For now, you rest. And the memory of the party, the music and the laughter, and the glittering impossible beauty of it all, that memory settles into your bones. It will stay there forever. Long after the last guest has been forgotten, long after the house itself has crumbled, the memory remains. You were there, you saw it, you were part of the magic, and nobody can ever take that away. Summer settles into a rhythm. Weeks pass, then months. The big party becomes a memory, then a story, then just another event in the endless calendar of the Gold Coast social season. There are more parties, of course, smaller ones, dinners for 20, luncheons on the terrace, a garden party where the guests played croquet and drank lemonade that cost more per glass than you earn in a day. But nothing quite matches that first one. Nothing quite captures the same impossible magic. And slowly, without quite noticing when it happened, you stop being the new girl. Other maids arrive, fresh off boats from Ireland and Germany and Sweden, wide-eyed and overwhelmed, just like you were 3 months ago. You show them where the coal scuttles are, teach them how to light a fire without smothering it. Pass on the knowledge Sarah passed to you. You'll get faster, you tell them. The same words you once hated to hear. Your hands don't crack anymore. Your legs don't ache when you climb the servants' stairs. Your body has adapted, reshaped itself around the work, become something harder and more efficient than the girl who stepped off that boat in June. September brings cooler nights. The family starts talking about returning to the city. Just talk, for now. But you can feel the season ending, the great machine winding down. Sunday afternoon, your half day. You're sitting in the servants' hall with Bridget, sharing a pot of tea and a plate of biscuits the cook set aside for you. Tell me about the others, you say. The servants, I mean. Where do they all come from? Bridget sips her tea, considering. All over. Annie's from Dublin. Ruth's from a farm in Pennsylvania, believe it or not. American-born, but poor as any of us. Sarah's been in service since she was 12. Started as a scullery maid in some house in Boston. Worked her way up. And Mrs. Whitmore? English. Came over with a family 30 years ago. The family went bust in some financial panic. Lost everything. But she'd learned how to run a house by then, so she found work with other families. Been here since the Harringtons built the place. 30 years. A lifetime spent in service. You try to imagine yourself at Mrs. Whitmore's age, still climbing these stairs, still checking uniforms in the servants' hall. The thought makes you tired. Do people ever leave? Course they do. Girls get married mostly, find a footman or a chauffeur and settle down. Some save enough to open a boarding house or a little shop. A few go back home, if they got anything to go back to. What about you? Bridget smiles, but there's something sad at the edges. I've got a fellow, Michael, works as a chauffeur for the Phippses. We're saving up. Another year or two, we'll have enough to get married proper. Maybe open a restaurant. He wants to be a cook, can you believe it? A man who wants to cook. A fellow? You hadn't known. Bridget keeps her secrets close. That's wonderful. It is. She takes another biscuit. But what about you, Mary Catherine? Any plans beyond scrubbing floors for the Harringtons? You don't have an answer. Not really. When you left Ireland, your only plan was to survive, to earn enough money to help your family, to not starve, not freeze, not end up on the streets. You've done that. You're doing that. But what comes next? I don't know, you admit. I haven't thought that far ahead. You should. This life, it's fine for a while, but it wears you down. The smart ones get out before it takes everything. Before it takes everything. You think about Mrs. Whitmore with her grey hair and her grey eyes and her devotion to a family that barely knows she exists. Is that what happens if you stay too long? The tea grows cold. The afternoon light slants through the basement windows. Somewhere above, the family is doing whatever rich people do on Sunday afternoons. Napping, probably. Reading. Being bored in expensive rooms. Come on, Bridget says, standing. I want to show you something. She leads you through the servants' corridors, past the kitchen and the laundry and the boot room, through a door you've never noticed, down a narrow flight of stairs, into the bowels of the house. Where are we going? You'll see. The passage ends at another door, this one heavier, reinforced with metal. Bridget pulls it open, and you step into a room that makes you stop and stare. It's a bar. An actual bar. Right here in the basement of the house. Bottles line the walls. A wooden counter stretches across one end. Tables and chairs are scattered around the space, and the whole room is lit by candles that cast dancing shadows across the ceiling. The speakeasy, Bridget says, grinning at your expression. Mr. Harrington's father had it built right before Prohibition started. Stocked it with enough champagne and scotch to last a decade. The family uses it for parties sometimes. But on Sunday nights, after the work's done, it's ours. Ours? The servants. Mr. Jennings looks the other way as long as nobody gets too drunk to work Monday morning. As if on cue, a door at the far end opens. Patrick the gardener walks in, followed by 2 footmen and one of the kitchen maids. They wave at Bridget like this is the most normal thing in the world. Mary, good to see you. Patrick pulls out a chair. First time down here? First time. Then let me buy you a drink. Well, not buy exactly, but you know what I mean. He pours something amber from a bottle that looks older than your grandmother. The liquid catches the candlelight, glowing like captured fire. Scotch, he says. The good stuff. Mr. Harrington's father had excellent taste. You take a sip. It burns all the way down, then blooms into warmth in your chest. You've had whiskey before, cheap poteen at wakes and weddings back home. This is something else entirely. Smooth, complex, like drinking a sunset. It's good. It's 50 years old, worth more than we'll ever make. The room fills slowly, other servants drifting in as their duties end. Someone produces a fiddle, someone else starts singing. The music is familiar, Irish, with a bit of American thrown in. The kind of songs you grew up with, transformed by the journey across the ocean. For the first time since you arrived, you feel like you're among family. These are your people, the unseen ones, the ones who keep the castles running while the kings and queens dance overhead. They come from different countries, speak with different accents, worship different gods. But they all understand the same things. The weight of a coal scuttle after 4 flights of stairs, the fear of breaking something priceless, the strange pride of a job done well for people who will never thank you. Patrick tells a story about a duchess he once served who demanded fresh flowers in her bedroom every 3 hours. Another servant tops him with a tale of a millionaire who made his butler taste all his food for poison. Someone else remembers a party where a famous actor got so drunk he fell asleep in a fountain and had to be fished out by 3 footmen. The stories are funny and sad and ridiculous and true. They're the history of a world nobody writes down, the oral tradition of the serving class. You listen, you laugh, you drink more of the 50-year-old scotch. And somewhere in the candlelight and music, you feel something shift inside you. This is your life now. Not just the work, the endless cleaning and carrying, but this too. This community, this family you found in the basement of a castle on Long Island. It's not what you imagined when you left Ireland. But maybe it's enough. The hours pass, the candles burn lower. People drift off to bed one by one until only you and Bridget and Patrick remain. I should go, you say. Morning comes early. It always does. Patrick raises his glass in a toast. To the invisible ones, may we someday be seen. To the invisible ones, Bridget echoes. You drink. The scotch is almost gone now. Just a finger left in the bottle. Someone will have to replace it before the family notices. Someone always does. Upstairs, the house is silent. The family asleep in their silk sheets, dreaming whatever rich people dream. You climb the servants' stairs one last time. 4 flights. Your feet know every step. Ruth and Annie are already asleep when you reach the room. The moon is bright through the window, painting everything silver. You change in the dark, slip between the sheets, let the warmth of the scotch carry you towards sleep. Tomorrow you'll wake at 5:30 and do it all again. The fires, the water, the endless cleaning. But tonight, you're not just a servant. You're part of something. A community. A family. A secret society of people who keep the world running from the shadows. That's worth something. Maybe that's worth everything. The music echoes in your memory. The fiddle and the singing and the laughter. Your mother used to say that home wasn't a place. It was the people you loved. Maybe you're finally finding home. The thought warms you more than the scotch, more than the blankets, more than anything. You sleep, and in your dreams, you're dancing again. Not in the ballroom with the rich people, but in the basement speakeasy with the servants. The music is wild and free, and nobody cares about being seen or unseen. In your dreams, everybody sees you. Everybody knows your name. And when you wake in the morning, the memory lingers. A warmth in your chest that has nothing to do with whiskey. You're not alone here. You never were. The sun rises. The day begins. And somewhere in the depths of the house, the machine starts turning again. But this time you're part of the machine, not just a cog, but a member, connected to all the other cogs, all the other unseen people who make the impossible possible. There's comfort in that, maybe even joy. You dress in the dark, the routine so familiar now it happens without thought. Black dress, white apron, cap pinned just so. The face in the mirror is still yours, still Mary Catherine Brennan from County Cork. But something in your eyes has changed. You look like someone who belongs here, like someone who's found her place. The bell rings. 5:30. Time to work. You go. And as you descend the servants' stairs, past the doors to all the other rooms, past all the other women in identical uniforms, you feel something you haven't felt in months. You feel grateful, not for the work. The work is still hard, still endless, still unnoticed. But for the people, for Bridget and Sarah and Patrick and all the others, for the speakeasy in the basement and the songs in the candlelight and the stories that only servants tell, for this strange, beautiful, exhausting life you've stumbled into. You're not rich. You never will be. But you're not poor in the ways that matter most. The day begins. The work continues, and somewhere in your heart a small flame burns steady. The flame of belonging, the flame of home. October now. The leaves on the estate are turning, gold and red and orange, painting the grounds in colours so rich they look fake. The family has decided to stay longer than usual. Something about business matters that require Mr. Harrington to be close to the city but not in it. The servants' gossip network, which knows everything, says it has to do with the stock market. Something about investments. something that makes Mr. Harrington pace in his study late at night when he thinks no one is watching. But someone is always watching. That's what servants do. You've learned to read the house like a book now. The rhythm of footsteps tells you who's coming before they appear. The way a door closes tells you someone's mood. The pattern of bells from the call box tells you which room needs attention and how urgently. It's a language, a silent language that only servants speak, and you've become fluent. One evening after dinner service, you find yourself in the library, not cleaning, just looking. The family's at a neighbour's house for the night, and Mr. Jennings has given permission for the housemaids to take a break. The library is your favourite room. Books floor to ceiling, most of them never touched. A rolling ladder that lets you reach the higher shelves. A fireplace big enough to stand in, carved with figures from Greek mythology. You don't know Greek mythology, don't know most of what these books contain, but you like being here, like the smell of leather and old paper, like the feeling of being surrounded by knowledge, even if you can't access it. You read, don't you? You spin around. Miss Eleanor stands in the doorway, still in her dinner dress, a glass of something in her hand. Yes, miss. When I can. I thought so. I've seen you looking at the shelves when you think no one's watching. Your face burns. You're not supposed to be here. Not supposed to be caught here. This is a fireable offence, surely. But Miss Eleanor just smiles. It's a tired smile, touched with something that might be loneliness. Don't worry, I won't tell anyone. I used to do the same thing when I was young. Sneak into Father's study after bedtime. Read by candlelight until my eyes hurt. She walks to a shelf, runs her fingers along the spines, pulls out a small volume and hands it to you. Jane Austen, Pride and Prejudice. Have you read it? No, miss. You should. It's about a woman who thinks she knows everything and a man who thinks he's above everyone. They're both wrong, of course. That's the point. You take the book. It's small, bound in dark leather, the pages soft from use. I couldn't, miss. If someone found it. Say I lent it to you. That's true enough. Bring it back when you're finished. I'll lend you another. She turns and leaves before you can respond. The door closes softly behind her. You stand there, holding the book, not quite believing what just happened. Miss Eleanor, the sad girl with the photograph on her dresser, the one who waited all night for Frederick who never came. She saw you, actually saw you, and instead of scolding you or reporting you, she gave you a gift. You hide the book under your apron and make your way back to the servants' quarters. Your heart is pounding, not from fear exactly, from something else, something that feels almost like hope. That night, after Ruth and Annie fall asleep, you light a candle stub you've saved and start reading. It is a truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of a good fortune must be in want of a wife. The words are strange at first, the language old-fashioned, but you keep going, and slowly the story pulls you in. Elizabeth Bennet with her sharp tongue, Mr. Darcy with his pride, the ballrooms and the misunderstandings and the slow, painful journey toward love. It's nothing like your life, and yet, somehow, it is. The distances between people, the assumptions we make, the walls we build and then you have to tear down. You read until the candle sputters out. Then you lie in the dark, the book pressed against your chest, and think about walls. The wall between the family and the servants. The wall between old money and new money. The wall between Irish and English, Catholic and Protestant, rich and poor. So many walls. And yet tonight, Miss Eleanor reached across one and handed you a book. Maybe the walls aren't as solid as they seem. Maybe, with enough time, enough patience, enough small kindnesses, they can crumble. You fall asleep thinking about Elizabeth Bennet, who refused to be invisible, who spoke her mind even when it cost her, who won in the end because she refused to be less than she was. Could you be like her? Maybe. Someday. When you've saved enough money. When you've learned enough. When you've built something of your own. The thought follows you into dreams, and in your dreams you're not in the library anymore. You're standing on the grand staircase, the one servants aren't allowed to use. You're wearing a silk dress, and people are looking at you, actually looking at you, and you're not afraid. You're not afraid of being seen. The dream fades before you can reach the bottom of the stairs, but the feeling lingers, the feeling of being visible, the feeling of mattering. You wake to the 5:30 bell as always, but something is different. Something has shifted in the night. You have a book hidden under your mattress, a book given to you by a rich girl who saw you as a person. It's not much. In the grand scheme of things, it's nothing. But it feels like the beginning of something. What, you don't know yet. But something. You dress in the dark, begin the day, light the fires, carry the water, make the beds. But all through the morning, as you move through the house like a ghost, you're thinking about Elizabeth Bennet, and about walls, and about what it might mean to refuse to be invisible. The days grow shorter, the nights grow colder, the season is ending, truly ending now. Soon the family will return to New York. The servants will close up the house, cover the furniture in sheets, shutter the windows against the winter. Some staff will travel with the family, others will be let go until spring. A few, like Mrs. Whitmore and Mr. Jennings, will stay behind to maintain the empty house. You don't know yet which category you'll fall into. That decision belongs to Mrs. Whitmore, and she hasn't announced anything. But for now, in these last golden days of October, you try not to think about it. You read Pride and Prejudice by candlelight, a chapter at a time. You drink scotch in the speakeasy on Sunday nights. You write letters to your mother, telling her about the leaves and the cold and the strange, beautiful life you've built. You don't tell her about the book. Don't tell her about Miss Eleanor or the library or the way your world is slowly, quietly expanding. Some things are too fragile to put in words. Some things you have to protect, even from the people who love you. The house feels different now, fuller somehow, more alive. Or maybe you're just finally seeing it clearly. Not as a palace to be cleaned, not as a machine to keep running, but as a place where people live and love and struggle and dream. The family in their silk sheets, the servants in their narrow beds, all of them human, all of them trying. That's what you've learned in these months on Long Island. Everyone is trying, even the rich people, even the ones who seem to have everything. They're all just trying to build something beautiful in a world that keeps threatening to fall apart. And maybe that's the secret. Maybe that's what Otto Kahn understood when he built his castle on a hill. We're all just building, all just hoping, all just reaching towards something we can barely see. The fire in the grate crackles softly. The night deepens around you. Tomorrow will bring more work, more labour that goes unnoticed, more climbing and carrying and cleaning. But tonight, in this quiet moment, you feel at peace. You've found your place. Not at the top of the ladder, not in the silk dresses and the ballrooms, but here, in the servants' quarters, in the speakeasy after hours, in the pages of a borrowed book. This is your Gold Coast, and it's enough. It's more than enough. You blow out the candle, the darkness wraps around you like a blanket, and you sleep, dreaming of nothing at all, perfectly content. November comes with frost on the windows and a decision. Mrs. Whitmore calls you to her office on a Tuesday afternoon. You stand before her desk, hands clasped, heart racing. This is it, the moment you learn your fate. Brennan. She looks up from her ledger, her face unreadable. You've done well these past months. Better than I expected, frankly. Thank you, Mom. The family returns to New York next week. I've recommended that you travel with them. You'll continue your duties at the city house through the winter. Your wages will remain the same, with room and board provided. Relief floods through you. You're not being let go. You have work through the winter. Thank you, Mom. I won't disappoint you. See that you don't. She returns to her ledger, and you understand you're dismissed. That night in the speakeasy, you tell the others. Bridget hugs you so tight you can't breathe. Patrick raises a toast with the last of the 50-year-old Scotch. To Mary, he says, who survived her first season without getting fired, murdered, or married off to a footman. The night is young, you say, and everyone laughs. Even Ruth cracks a smile, and Ruth never smiles. The city house is something else, Sarah warns. Smaller than here, but busier. The family entertains more when they're in town. Dinner parties every other night. You'll work harder than you've ever worked. I'm not afraid of work. I know you're not. That's why you got picked. Bridget squeezes your hand under the table. We'll be together at least. Michael's driving the Phipps's car to the city next week. Says he'll take me to Coney Island on my half day. Michael, the chauffeur she's been saving up to marry. You'd almost forgotten about their plans. The restaurant. Still the dream. Her eyes go soft. Another 2 years, maybe 3. Then we'll have enough. You hope she's right. You hope at least one of you gets to build something of your own. The last days on Long Island pass in a blur. Furniture shrouded in white sheets, chandeliers wrapped in muslin. The house transformed into a ghost of itself. You walk through the empty ballroom one last time. The wax stain is gone, of course, scrubbed away months ago. But you remember where it was. Remember kneeling on this floor while 300 people danced around you. Strange how a place can hold memories even after everything's been cleaned away. The motorcars arrive the next morning. You squeeze into the back with Bridget and 2 footmen, your knees pressed against your chest, watching Long Island slide past the windows. Other estates are shuttering up too. The whole Gold Coast going dormant for winter, like some enormous animal settling into hibernation. And then Manhattan rises on the horizon, and you forget everything else. The buildings. Good Lord, the buildings. They scrape the sky like something from a fever dream. You crane your neck until it hurts, trying to see the tops. First time? One of the footmen asks, grinning at your expression. That obvious? We all looked like that once. Don't worry, you get used to it. You don't think you'll ever get used to it. The city house is narrow. 5 stories of brownstone on the Upper East Side, squeezed between other narrow houses like books on a shelf. Your room is in the basement now, with 3 other maids, the window showing nothing but the legs of people walking past on the sidewalk. But there's a radiator. It clanks and hisses and keeps the room warm all night. After months in that drafty attic, it feels like heaven. Winter passes, then another and another. The years blur together in a way you didn't expect. Wasn't time supposed to slow down when you were young? Instead, it speeds up, each season melting into the next until you can't quite remember which year was which. You move up. 3rd housemaid to 2nd, 2nd to 1st. Your wages increase. You send more money home. Your mother writes that they've fixed the roof and bought a new cow. Your sister got married. Your brother joined the merchant marine. Life goes on, even across an ocean. And you change too. The calluses on your hands become permanent. The ache in your back becomes familiar. You learn to read the family's moods from the sound of their footsteps. Learn to anticipate what they'll need before they know they need it. You're good at this job, better than you ever expected to be. The Gold Coast summers become a rhythm. Back and forth, city to country, year after year. The same rooms, the same duties, the familiar weight of coal scuttles and water pitchers. But the world outside is changing. You can feel it in the air, hear it in the conversations you're not supposed to be listening to. The parties get wilder, the dresses get shorter, the music gets louder. Jazz everywhere now, bleeding from every window, every phonograph. The Harringtons' daughters dance the Charleston in the drawing room, and Mrs. Harrington pretends not to notice. Miss Eleanor gets engaged in the summer of 26, not to Frederick, whoever he was, to a banker's son from Boston. You help her pack for the wedding, folding silk and lace into tissue paper while she stares out the window. "Do you think we make our own choices, Mary?" she asks. "She's never used your first name before, or do our families make them for us?" You don't know how to answer. You've never had enough choices to know the difference. "I think we do the best we can," you say finally, "with what we're given." She smiles, but it doesn't reach her eyes. "Yes, I suppose that's all anyone can do." You never see her much after that. She moves to Boston, has children, becomes someone else's problem, someone else's mistress to serve. But sometimes, when you're dusting the library, you think about that question. About choices and families and the lives we build versus the lives we're handed. You still don't have an answer. Bridget marries Michael in 1928. A small ceremony at St. Patrick's, with you and Patrick and a handful of other servants as witnesses. She wears a white dress she saved 6 months to buy. He wears a borrowed suit that's slightly too big. They look so happy it almost hurts. "Next year," she whispers to you at the reception. They're serving cake in the church basement, cheap and sweet. "We've almost got enough. 1 more year and we'll open the restaurant." 1 more year. But 1 more year brings October 1929. You're back on Long Island, helping close up the house for winter. The radio in the servants' hall has been crackling with strange news all week. Numbers falling, markets plunging. Words you don't quite understand, but that make the older servants exchange worried looks. Then Thursday comes. The family emerges from the study looking like they've seen a ghost. Mr. Harrington's face is grey. Mrs. Harrington's hands are shaking. "The market has crashed," Sarah whispers. "Really crashed. They're saying fortunes are gone, just gone. Gone. How can a fortune be gone? It's not like it walked out the door." But over the next few weeks, you learn. You watch families across the Gold Coast crumble like sand castles at high tide. The Brightons let go their entire staff in November. 40 people, including 3 girls you'd gotten to know at church, suddenly out on the street with nothing. The Wentworths sell their estate to pay debts. It becomes a sanitarium, then a school, then sits empty, windows dark, gardens gone to wilderness. And Bridget's restaurant. That dream dies somewhere in the wreckage. She never talks about it anymore. The money they'd saved is worthless now, eaten by a bank that failed in the crash. She and Michael keep working, keep serving, keep hoping things will get better. They don't. Not for a long time. The Harringtons survive, diminished but intact. The dinner parties shrink. The staff shrinks. The dresses Mrs. Harrington orders are less extravagant now, though still nicer than anything you'll ever own. Otto Kahn dies in 1934. You read about it in the newspaper, sitting in the servants' hall with your morning tea. The King of New York, the obituary calls him, a titan of finance and the arts. But you remember him differently. Remember a small man with kind eyes who was never quite accepted by the people he most wanted to impress. Remember his wife calling the house Otto Zoo. Remember the letter on his desk that you weren't supposed to read. They will never accept us. Build something beautiful anyway. His castle, O'Haker, is sold to the city of New York. For a while it becomes a retreat for sanitation workers. They hold cookouts on the lawn where Caruso once sang, swim in the reflecting pools that cost a fortune to build. You shouldn't find this funny, but you sort of do. All that striving for acceptance, all that money spent on impressing people, and now dustmen are doing cannonballs into the formal gardens. Otto might have laughed at that, or cried. Hard to say. Mrs. Whitmore retires in 35. Her hands have gotten too shaky for the precise work of running a household. She moves to a sister's house in Connecticut, and somehow, miraculously, you're offered her position. Housekeeper, Mary Catherine Brennan, housekeeper. Your mother would have fainted. Your grandmother would have wept. It's more responsibility, more stress. You're in charge now, managing a staff that's shrunk to a dozen where there used to be 30. But also more respect. The family knows your name, asks your opinion sometimes, treats you like a person instead of a piece of furniture. It's not equality, never will be, but it's something. Then the war comes. Pearl Harbor, December 41. The radio stuttering with news that doesn't seem real. The young footmen enlist within weeks. The chauffeurs follow. Patrick, the gardener, tries to sign up even though he's nearly 40 with bad knees. They turn him away, but he finds work in a factory making airplane parts. Someone's got to do something, he says when he leaves. Can't just sit here polishing silver while the world burns. Women take over everything, running the houses, running the factories, running the country while the men are gone. You've been doing this work for 20 years, but suddenly it feels different, necessary, important. The Gold Coast empties out even further. Estates become barracks and training facilities. The government takes over mansions that were standing empty anyway. Oheka becomes a merchant marine academy. They paint everything blue, use the ballroom as a basketball court. All that imported marble, all those crystal chandeliers, and now 18-year-olds are practicing free throws under them. The war ends, the boys come home, but the world doesn't go back to the way it was. Babies everywhere, families needing houses. A man named Levitt buys farmland on Long Island and builds something new. Rows of identical houses, affordable, efficient. The American dream, but smaller, more democratic. Levitt Town, they call it. The future. And the old estates, they get swallowed up, torn down, carved into lots and sold to the rising middle class. By the 50s, half the mansions are gone. By the 60s, more than half. The Gold Coast is dying, one demolition at a time, but some people fight back. Preservationists, they call themselves. They buy the old estates with their own money, turn them into museums, open them to the public. A man named Gary Melius buys Oheka in the 80s, spends 30 years and $40 million restoring it, room by room. The basketball court becomes a ballroom again, the blue paint scraped away to reveal the original grandeur. He opens it as a hotel. People pay hundreds of dollars a night to sleep where Otto Kahn once entertained, to dance where Caruso once sang. You visit once, not to stay. You couldn't afford that, but to walk through, to remember. The reflecting pools are back, the gardens restored. It looks almost exactly like it did in 1922, when you were young and everything seemed impossible. Almost. The servants are different now. Employees, they're called, with contracts and benefits and time off. Nobody lives in cramped attic rooms anymore. Nobody works from 5:30 until midnight. Progress, you think. That's what progress looks like. You visit old Westbury Gardens too. The Phipps estate is a museum now. Tourists wandering through rooms you used to clean. They look at the portrait by Sir Joshua Reynolds, the one of the Scottish aristocrats. One of only 5 signed works by the artist in existence, the placard says. You dusted that painting 100 times and never knew it was special. Planting fields became a state park. You walk through the rooms where the Coes used to entertain, past the stained glass windows that came from Anne Boleyn's childhood home. In the breakfast room there's a mural of buffalo, wild and strange. Some rich man's tribute to the American West, painted onto the walls of his Long Island mansion. Tourists take photos with it now, pose in front of the buffalo like they're at a zoo. The world is so strange, so much stranger than you ever imagined it would be. The Harringtons are gone by the 80s. The last of them passed on, leaving no heirs who wanted the old life. The estate was sold, subdivided, turned into luxury homes for people who never heard of the Gold Coast. But you're still here, still on Long Island, living in a small apartment in a town that used to be farmland, watching the world change through your window. Bridget passed in 79. Cancer. Michael followed her 2 years later, as if he couldn't figure out how to live without her. They never got their restaurant, but they had 50 years together, which is more than most people get. Patrick made it to 90. Died in his sleep, his children told you. Peaceful. And you? You're still here. 87 years old with hands that remember every skill they ever learned. The way to fold a sheet, the way to light a fire, the way to move through a house without making a sound. Some things you never forget, and some things you can't forget even when you try. The party, the music. Caruso's voice rising into the summer night. Miss Eleanor in her blue dress asking about choices. The speakeasy with the fiddle and the 50-year-old scotch. Bridget's face on her wedding day, so full of hope. These are the things that last. Not the money or the mansions, the moments. That's the secret nobody tells you about the rich. They have more stuff, more rooms, more servants, but they don't have more moments. Not really. The laughter is the same, the tears are the same, the music and the dancing are the same, and in the end, that's all any of us get to keep. The night is quiet now. Your apartment is small but warm. The radiator hisses like an old friend. Through the window you can see the lights of Long Island. Somewhere out there a few of the old mansions still stand, preserved, protected, waiting for visitors who want to know what life was like when the world was different. Winston Churchill said once that we shape our buildings, and afterwards our buildings shape us. He was right. Those houses shaped everyone who passed through them, the families who built them, the servants who maintained them, and now they shape the tourists who wander through, trying to imagine a world they'll never know. You were part of that world. You helped build it, in your small way, carried the coal and polished the silver, and kept the whole impossible machine running, and now you're the last one left who remembers what it was really like. Not the version in the history books, not the glamour and the parties and the famous names, the real story. The one that happened in the servants' quarters and the hidden corridors and the speakeasy after midnight. That story belongs to you now, the only one left to tell it. Your eyes grow heavy. The present and past blur together, the way they always do these days. Tomorrow you'll wake up and make your tea and live your small, quiet life. Read the newspaper, watch the birds at the feeder. Remember things that only you remember now, but tonight you let yourself drift. Back to the ballroom with the dancing, back to the library where a rich girl gave a poor girl a book, back to the window on your first day, looking out at a castle you couldn't believe was real. You were so young then, so scared and hopeful and impossibly alive. You had no idea what was coming. The love and the loss, the crash and the war, the way the world would change and change again until it was barely recognizable. But you made it through. You survived. You found your people and your place. And that's everything. That's more than enough. Sleep comes now, soft and warm as a well-made bed. The kind you used to make, with 3 mattresses and hospital corners, perfect enough to pass any inspection. And in your dreams the music plays on. The dancers spin under crystal chandeliers. The champagne flows like water. And somewhere in the basement, hidden from the world above, the servants gather around an old wooden bar. Someone picks up a fiddle. Someone pours the good scotch. The invisible ones, the ones who made it all possible. Finally, after all these years dancing for themselves. And now you're here, in your own bed, in your own time. The story is ending, but something of it stays with you. A warmth in your chest, a heaviness behind your eyes, that particular tiredness that comes from travelling far without moving at all. You've been somewhere tonight, Long Island, 100 years ago, walking through rooms that are mostly gone now, meeting people who've been dust for decades. Mary Catherine Brennan, a girl from County Cork who came looking for $20 a month and found a whole strange world instead. She was real, you know. Not exactly as I told you, maybe. Not with that particular name or that specific story. But there were thousands like her. Tens of thousands. Irish girls and German girls and Swedish girls who crossed oceans to clean houses for people who never learned their names. They're all gone now. The servants and the families, the parties and the music, but not completely. On Long Island, right now, tonight, a few of those old mansions are still standing. Oheka Castle rises from its manufactured hill, the second largest private home ever built in America. Gary Melius's 30-year restoration brought back every detail. The reflecting pools shimmer under the moon. The formal gardens sleep in neat geometric rows. The ballroom where Caruso sang is quiet now. The crystal chandeliers dark, waiting for tomorrow's weddings and galas. People pay hundreds of dollars a night to sleep there, to walk halls that servants once scrubbed on their knees, to imagine themselves as Gatsby, just for a weekend. Otto Kahn would have found that funny probably, or sad. All that money, all that striving for acceptance, and now strangers rent his dreams by the hour. Old Westbury Garden sits just 20 minutes away. The Phipps house still holds the furniture from those English estates that were selling off their treasures after the First World War. The gilded mirrors, the ornate chandeliers, the portrait by Sir Joshua Reynolds, one of only 5 signed works by the artist in existence. Mary dusted that painting and never knew it was special. Just another canvas to clean. The gardens there are legendary. Little rooms made of hedges and flowers, designed to be discovered one by one. The rose garden, the cottage garden, the walled garden with its espaliered fruit trees. Thousands of tourists wander through every year, taking photos, admiring the beauty, never quite imagining the army of gardeners who keep it all alive. And Planting Fields, the co-estate, is a state park now. The stained glass windows that came from Anne Boleyn's childhood home still catch the light in the mornings. The buffalo mural still spreads across the breakfast room wall, that strange tribute to the American West painted in a Long Island mansion. Maiko's French reception room is preserved exactly as she left it. Tourists stand where guests once stood, sipping imaginary champagne, wondering what it felt like to be that rich. The speakeasy is still there too, behind the wood-panelled wall in the den. You can visit it on the tour if you know to ask. These houses are quiet at this hour. Dark windows, empty halls. The docents and gift shop workers won't arrive until morning. The security guards make their rounds, flashlights cutting through the darkness, checking locks, checking alarms, making sure the pass stays safe until the tourists come back. It's strange work, guarding history, protecting rooms that nobody lives in anymore, keeping watch over furniture that hasn't been used in a century. But someone has to do it. That's the thing about preservation. It takes constant effort, constant care. The moment you stop paying attention, the decay starts. Paint peels, wood rots, gardens go wild, memories fade. The Gold Coast lost most of its mansions to neglect, to indifference, to a world that was moving too fast to look back. Of the 1,200 estates that once dotted the North Shore, less than 400 remain, and of those only a handful are open to the public. The rest are private homes now, or schools, or corporate retreats, turned into something useful, something modern. Nothing wrong with that, really. Houses are meant to be lived in, rooms are meant to be used, but there's something lost too, something that only the preserved places keep. The feeling of stepping back in time, of standing where they stood, of imagining just for a moment what it was like to live in that vanished world. The tourists who visit Oheka and Old Westbury and planting fields, they're not just looking at architecture, they're looking for something else, some connection to the past, some sense of continuity in a world that changes too fast to follow, and maybe they find it. In the way light falls through a leaded glass window, in the grain of wood that was cut 100 years ago, in the silence of a room that remembers more than anyone alive. Houses hold their memories close, even when everyone who made them is gone. And these houses have so many memories, the parties and the proposals, the fights and the reconciliations, the servants moving silently through hidden corridors, the families living their complicated lives in public rooms, all of it layered into the walls, the floors, the very air of the place. You can feel it if you're quiet enough, if you're patient enough, the presence of everyone who came before. But if you could walk through them tonight, if you could slip past the security systems and wander those marble corridors alone, you might feel something, a presence, a whisper, the echo of footsteps that should have faded decades ago. Houses remember things. That's what they're built for, really. To hold memories, to keep them safe even when everyone who made them is gone. The ballrooms remember the dancing, the kitchens remember the cooking, the servant stairs remember the endless climbing up and down day after day, year after year, and the attic rooms remember the sleeping. All those tired bodies finding rest after impossible days, all those dreams of home and family and a future that might be better than the present. Mary slept in rooms like that for decades. Narrow beds, thin walls, the sounds of other servants breathing in the dark. But she found peace there, eventually. Found something like home in those cramped quarters with women who understood her life because they were living it too. Bridget in the bed next to hers, whispering about Michael. Annie snoring softly. Ruth turning in her sleep. A family of sorts. The kind you choose rather than the kind you're born into. That's worth something. Worth everything, maybe. And now you're remembering too. Mary's first glimpse of that impossible castle. The weight of coal scuttles on her raw hands. The music in the speakeasy after midnight. The party. The dancing. Caruso's voice rising into the summer night like something from another world. Miss Eleanor handing her a book in the library. Actually seeing her. Actually treating her like a person. Bridget's face on her wedding day. So full of hope for a restaurant that would never open. Patrick raising a toast to the invisible ones. These moments that happened a century ago in rooms you'll probably never see. But they feel close now, don't they? Almost touchable. That's what stories do. They collapse the distance, make the past feel present, turn strangers into something like friends. Mary was a stranger 2 hours ago. Now she's someone you know. Someone you've walked beside through ballrooms and servants' quarters in the long, strange years of the 20th century. You've seen her scared and hopeful on that dusty road. Seen her exhausted after her first day. Seen her find her place among the other servants. Seen her watch an era rise and fall. You know things about her that the history books don't record. The way she felt scraping wax off that ballroom floor. The taste of 50-year-old scotch in a hidden basement bar. The weight of loss when Bridget died, and Patrick and everyone else who shared those years with her. Maybe you'll think of her sometimes. When you visit an old house, when you see a period drama on television, when you notice someone working a job that nobody notices. Maybe you'll wonder about their story, the life they're living when nobody's watching, the dreams they carry through their unnoticed days. That would be something. That would mean tonight mattered. But don't worry about that now. Don't worry about anything. Your bed is warm. Your pillow is soft. Your blanket is doing exactly what blankets are supposed to do. Feel that for a moment. The weight of the covers, the give of the mattress, the way your body has found its comfortable position without you even thinking about it. This is luxury, you know, real luxury. Not the marble and crystal of the Gold Coast, but something more fundamental. Safety, warmth, rest. Mary would have loved this. A bed of your own in a room of your own. The luxury of sleeping until you wake naturally, with no bells to answer and no fires to light. She never had that. Not really. Even at the end, even in her small apartment, some part of her was always listening, always ready to jump up and serve. 50 years of service leaves marks that don't wash off, but you can rest, truly rest. There's no coal to carry, no water to haul up 4 flights of stairs, no silver to polish until your hands crack. Just this quiet, this peace. Let yourself sink into it. The story's over now. The dancers have gone home. The champagne's been drunk. The music has faded to silence. Somewhere on Long Island, the preserved mansions stand in darkness. Their windows reflect nothing but stars. Their gardens sleep under the moon. Tomorrow the tourists will come again. The docents will tell their stories. The gift shops will sell postcards of a world that doesn't exist anymore. But tonight, the houses are alone with their memories, and you're alone with yours. Close your eyes now. Let the images drift. The ballrooms and the bedrooms, the servants' stairs and the grand entrance, the party and the aftermath and the long, slow fade of an era. It's all mixed up together now, the past and the present, Mary's story and your own. That's how it should be. That's what history is. Not something separate from us, locked away in museums and textbooks, but something we carry, something that lives in us, whether we know it or not. Mary lived through things you've only read about. The Roaring Twenties, the crash, the depression, the war, the baby boom, the slow death of the Gold Coast. She saw fortunes made and lost, saw families rise and fall, saw servants come and go, generation after generation, each one learning the same lessons she learned on that first brutal day. And now her story lives in you. Not forever. Nothing lasts forever. Those mansions taught us that, if nothing else. But for a while. For tonight. For the dreams you're about to have. She's there now, waiting. In that space between waking and sleep where the past feels closer than the present. Mary Catherine Brennan, 21 years old, standing at her window on her first night in America, looking out at a castle she can barely believe is real. She doesn't know what's coming. None of us ever do. But she's not afraid. Not anymore. She's made it this far. Survived the ship and the strangers and Mrs. Whitmore's inspection. Tomorrow she'll learn to light fires and carry coal and move through a house without being seen. But tonight she can rest, and so can you. The night is deep now. The world is quiet. Even the sounds you didn't notice have faded. Just your breathing, slow and steady, in and out, just your heartbeat, calm and even, the rhythm of rest, the rhythm that Mary knew, that every servant knew in those brief hours between work and work. Your body remembers how to do this, even when your mind forgets, how to let go, how to drift, how to trust that the world will keep turning while you're gone. The servants learned that too, had to learn it. or they would have worked themselves to death. The body has limits, the mind has limits. Even the most devoted worker needs to close their eyes sometimes. And when they did, the house went on without them. The fires burned down, the candles guttered, the clocks kept ticking in the darkness, and somewhere in the grand bedrooms upstairs the family slept too, rich and poor, master and servant, all of them surrendering to the same night. That's the great equalizer, isn't it? Sleep, the one thing that money can't buy more of. The Harringtons had their silk sheets and feather pillows. Mary had her narrow bed and thin blanket. But sleep came for both of them, took them both to the same dark place where fortunes and failures don't matter, and brought them both back in the morning to start again. That's life, really. That cycle, work and rest, doing and being, the endless rhythm of days. Mary lived through thousands of those days, each one a little different, each one a little the same, and now her days are done. But the rhythm goes on. You're part of it now. Living your own days, doing your own work, finding your own rest. Let it carry you down, down, into the dark, warm place where stories end and dreams begin. Mary is there, somewhere, dancing in a ballroom that doesn't exist anymore, laughing with friends who've been gone for decades, living the life she built piece by piece, day by day. She's happy in your dreams, finally free of the work, finally seen. And you're there too, watching from the edge of the dance floor. Part of the story now. The music plays on, the dancers spin, the crystal chandeliers blaze with light. And somewhere, in a hidden room behind a wood-panelled wall, the servants are gathering, pouring the good scotch, picking up their instruments. Their turn to dance now, their turn to celebrate. You can hear the fiddle starting up, a melody you've never learned but somehow know. Join them if you want. In your dreams you can do anything, or just watch, just rest, just be. The party will go on without you. It always does. That's the thing about the past. It doesn't need us. It just is. But it's nice to visit sometimes. Nice to remember. Nice to know that once, not so long ago, in houses that were almost castles, ordinary people lived extraordinary lives. And one of them was named Mary. And now you know her story. Good night. Sleep well. Dream of music and moonlight and the Gold Coast in all its vanished glory. And when you wake, carry a little piece of it with you, not as a burden, just as a gift, from the past to the present, from Mary to you. The servant's song fades, the dancers slow, the lights dim, one by one, and sleep finally, completely, takes you down into the dark, where all stories end and all dreamers rest. Good night.